Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. We bring you hundreds of novel audiobooks covering every genre and every kind of story you can imagine. Action? We've got it. Adventure? Absolutely. Horror? Of course. Whether it's the legendary Uchiha massacre or outrageous tales like stealing Naruto's and Sasuke's women, you'll find it here. From epic series like One Piece, Bleach, Fairy Tail, and Hunter x Hunter, to countless other adventures, our library has it all. Love novels but don't have time to read? No worries, just plug in your earbuds, sit back, and let the story take over. Good listening, and happy hearing. Asuma needs to be properly disciplined. Kazuki also took action, but that's a minor issue. The most important thing now is that the news has spread all over the daimyo. It's clear that the daimyo is behind this, and he is still watching us, Hidden Leaf Village. He might even be targeting you. Hamura stated the obvious, clarifying the situation. The daimyo is targeting the third Hokage. They're trying to smear his reputation. Everyone's hearts skipped a beat, especially Hayashi, who couldn't help but recall Kazuki's previous words. Could this all be connected to the Uchiha? For the Uchiha to escape their current predicament, the best solution would be to bring down the third Hokage and replace him with someone who doesn't hold prejudice against the Uchiha. Like Tsunade, or perhaps Jiraiya. If this really has something to do with the Uchiha, then the Hyuga clan will have much more to consider. Sigh, it's all because of Denzo. Torafu, who rarely attended meetings, was dissatisfied with the size of the chair beneath him. The chair was too small and uncomfortable to sit on. The daimyo has been adamant about the village dealing with Denzo. Although Tsunade managed to quell the daimyo's anger, some things aren't so easily forgotten. How can a broken mirror ever be restored? This statement was very clear. It was directly aimed at the third Hokage. Because you refuse to deal with Denzo, the daimyo is targeting you. Torafu's blunt words caused the Hokage's office to fall silent. The people attending the meeting looked at each other, all choosing to remain silent. When it comes to Denzo, it's better not to speak up to avoid offending both Denzo and the third Hokage. Torafu isn't afraid, but they dare not provoke both of these formidable figures simultaneously. Prepare for the worst. The Third Ninja War had forced the third Hokage to retire at that time. The villagers were unhappy with the constant wars, and Hidden Leaf Village had suffered heavy losses. Facing such a situation, the third Hokage had no choice but to push Minato to become Hokage. If this situation repeats itself, what will the third Hokage do? Fatty, don't say such things. Hamura panicked, hurriedly interrupting him. Are you here to attend a meeting or to cause trouble? Prepare for the worst. Why don't you just say Hiruzen should step down right now? The third Hokage's expression remained calm, but the clenched fists showed that his heart was already in turmoil. First Denzo, then the daimyo, and now Asuma. Troubles keep coming one after another. With so many incidents piling up, the villagers will start to question, start to doubt the third Hokage's ability. By then, the third Hokage won't be able to avoid retirement even if he wants to. Alright, I won't say anything. Pretend I didn't speak. Torafu raised his hand, waved it off, and leaned back in his chair, staying silent. No one would have expected that before Hidden Leaf Village could come up with a countermeasure, an even bigger bombshell would drop. At the daimyo residence, still in the same old place, the same unfortunate aide with a look like his father had died rushed into the daimyo's side. Daimyo-sama. The aide walked to the daimyo's side and carefully informed him that there was a situation. What is it? The daimyo, busy partying with relatives and friends, frowned in displeasure. The aide, on the verge of tears, quietly handed him a scroll. He handed the scroll to the daimyo and tried to lower his voice as much as possible. Daimyo-sama, it's the same source as last time. What information from last time? This is bad. The aide didn't expect the daimyo to be so blunt and open the scroll directly in front of everyone. Will he kill me after he sobers up? Recalling the daimyo's many warnings last time, the aide wanted to die. Let me take a look. Unaware of his aide's inner turmoil, the daimyo squinted his eyes as he read the scroll's contents. The daimyo of the Land of Lightning sitting beside him also leaned over to take a look. Everyone else was still having fun, and the aide was clueless enough to hand over the scroll, acting all secretive. I want to see what precious information is in this scroll. Since the fire daimyo opened the scroll in public, it indicated that there was no need to hide it from others. It wasn't a big deal. Information about Hidden Leaf Village. The third Hokage and Denzo have never given up on their research into wood style, hoping to replicate the first Hokage's abilities, and have even sent many war orphans to be experimented on. Even Orochimaru was involved? Good grief, they don't even spare their own villagers and ninja. Wait. Before the fire daimyo could react, the lightning daimyo broke into a cold sweat. What kind of cursed information is this? And where did it come from? Chapter 99, Hidden Leaf Village has never given up on researching wood style and even captures people for experiments. They don't even spare their own village's citizens and ninjas. It's utterly insane. What's more terrifying is that they've succeeded. What did you see to make you so scared? The daimyo of the Land of Water teased, leaning in to take a look after noticing the daimyo of the Land of Lightning's sudden change in expression. He squinted slightly, and his intoxicated eyes suddenly widened in shock. The wine cup in his hand dropped to the floor with a thud, bouncing twice. Hidden Leaf Village is actually capturing war orphans for wood-style experiments and doesn't even spare their own citizens and ninjas? The daimyo of the Land of Water exclaimed, drawing everyone's attention. What? At those words, the room fell silent. The daimyo of the Land of Lightning twitched slightly, looking at him speechlessly. Are you an idiot? Such critical information, and you just blurt it out? What just happened? At this moment, the daimyo of the Land of Fire gradually came to his senses. Having drunk too much, he still hadn't realized he had leaked vital information. His reflexes were just a bit slow. Damn, I think I did something stupid. As the daimyo of the Land of Fire regained his senses, his heart skipped a beat. He instinctively wanted to put away the scroll. But it was too late. He felt a slip in his hand, and the scroll was snatched away. The other daimyo, drawn by the commotion, crowded around to take a look. The third Hokage and Denzo are this ruthless? It's one thing to experiment on war orphans, but they don't even spare their own villagers. More than that, they even dare to mess with the first Hokage's remains. What won't they do? I can't believe Hidden Leaf Village successfully recreated someone with wood style. The daimyo began discussing fervently, not forgetting to criticize the third Hokage and Denzo, calling them insane, inhuman, and more. I remember I still have some unfinished business. How about we end this gathering here? The daimyo of the Land of Lightning, with a quick glance, suggested leaving. Let's go together, then. The daimyo of the Land of Earth, who had been drunk just moments ago, was suddenly sober. He stood up, motioning to his guards, preparing to leave. Seeing the daimyo of the Land of Lightning and the Land of Earth preparing to leave, the others finally reacted. This isn't about cruelty or anything like that. The real issue is that Hidden Leaf Village has successfully recreated someone with wood style. If their experiments continue, will Hidden Leaf Village produce a bunch of people who can use wood style? Even if these people aren't as powerful as Sanju Hashirama, they would still be enough to disrupt the current balance of the ninja world. This concerns every nation, every ninja village. It would be strange if the daimyo could stay calm. So, following the lead of the daimyo of the Land of Lightning and the Land of Earth, everyone quickly expressed their desire to return home, ending the gathering. You can leave, but leave the scroll behind. Who took the scroll amidst the chaos? A few minutes ago, the place was bustling, but within minutes, it became quiet. All that was left was the daimyo of the Land of Fire sitting on the floor, glaring in frustration. This is a big problem. You fool, why didn't you remind me? The daimyo angrily threw his wine cup at his advisor. The advisor quickly dodged, explaining with grievance, I did remind you, but you were drunk, so you didn't notice. And you still dare to talk. The daimyo was fuming. The advisor quickly suggested, Daimyo-sama, we should act quickly while Hidden Leaf Village is still unprepared, declare our stance, and avoid falling into a stalemate. Besides, if Hiruzen and Denzo dare to do something this ruthless, what if they? Before receiving this information, the daimyo thought the third Hokage and Denzo were already outrageous and cruel enough. But this intelligence report completely shattered his expectations. There seems to be nothing the third Hokage and Denzo wouldn't do. You're right. Notify Tsunade immediately, I want to meet with her. And also Kazuki Uchiha. Additionally, spread this information. I want to see how Hiruzen explains himself. Does he still have the face to sit in the Hokage's seat? The daimyo didn't think he was wrong to let the information slip, only regretting it a bit. After all, the intelligence was bought from the Bounty Guild. If he could buy it, so could others. It won't take long before this news spreads like wildfire, and the entire ninja world will know about the dirty deeds of the third Hokage and Denzo. Oh, and Orochimaru too. Orochimaru was also involved in these matters. Yes. The advisor wiped the sweat from his forehead and quickly sent someone to notify Tsunade and Kazuki. He knew he had dodged a bullet, the daimyo had spared him and shifted his attention to the third Hokage and Denzo, placing the blame on them. As for whether the intelligence was true or not, was there even a need to doubt? The information was so detailed, down to the wood-style ninja's personal details. Almost specifying even the color of their underwear. Was there any need to doubt? A simple inquiry would confirm whether the intelligence was accurate. Are the daimyo really leaving? This gathering seemed a bit short. The daimyo of each nation hurriedly left with their people, leaving Tsunade puzzled. These people were so drunk just moments ago, and now they were rushing off as if there was a fire at home. Tsunade-sama, the daimyo requests your presence in the palace immediately. I understand. Putting aside her current task, Tsunade tidied her clothes, preparing to enter the palace and meet the daimyo. She had only just left the courtyard when she ran into Kazuki. Together? Nodding, Kazuki walked alongside Tsunade, who remarked with suspicion, the daimyo from each nation left in quite a hurry. Perhaps something urgent came up. Kazuki still didn't realize that the intelligence he provided caused the daimyo to abandon the gathering and rush home, not even bothering to put pressure on the daimyo of the Land of Fire. The two of them entered the palace. Tsunade, if I recall correctly, there seems to be a ninja in the Anbu named Tenzo. As soon as they met, the daimyo came out with his question. Tsunade was stunned for 2 seconds, shook her head, and replied, I'm not sure. She had been away from Hidden Leaf Village for several years and had only returned to the village for a few days before coming to the daimyo's residence. She really wasn't sure if there was such a person in the Anbu. Do you know? Tsunade looked at Kazuki. It seems there is someone like that, and he seems to have a good relationship with Kakashi. Here we go, the show is about to begin. Hearing the daimyo inquire about Tenzo, specifically mentioning that he is an Anbu member, Kazuki knew that Fugaku had successfully delivered the intelligence. And the daimyo had successfully obtained it from the Bounty Guild. Or rather, bought it. Tenzo, who would later be known as Yamato, was a replica wood-style user, codenamed en route. Later, after getting to know Kakashi, he was transferred to the Anbu with the help of the third Hokage and was given the codename Tenzo. It wasn't until he left the Anbu that the third Hokage granted him the name Yamato. Chapter 100, Is there really such a person? The daimyo asked further. Kazuki nodded affirmatively, because the Uchiha clan has always been monitored by the Anbu, and I am one of the key individuals they focus on. I often encounter people from the Anbu. Damn it. Upon receiving a positive answer, the daimyo angrily slammed the table. Although his acting was a bit awkward, his face was already flushed from drinking, so there was no need to pretend. They were summoned specifically, only to be asked about an Anbu ninja named Tenzo upon meeting the daimyo. After confirming the information, the daimyo got angry. Tsunade was confused by the daimyo's bizarre behavior and couldn't figure out what he was trying to convey. I thought I had already overestimated Hiruzen and Denzo Shimura, but I didn't expect their hearts to be so dark. They are the disgrace to Hidden Leaf Village. How could they betray the orphans and the villagers who died unjustly? What have the old man and Denzo done this time to make the daimyo openly curse them? Don't look at me, I don't know either. Kazuki gave Tsunade a look that said, I have no idea. Tsunade, see for yourself. Before Tsunade and Kazuki arrived, the daimyo had already had his staff rewrite the contents of the intelligence scroll. I hope it's nothing serious. Tsunade sighed inwardly. She was already tired of these troublesome issues, but they kept coming, one after another. When she opened the new scroll, Tsunade looked closely, thinking she had misread it. She looked up at the daimyo, then lowered her head to continue reading. Standing beside Tsunade, Kazuki glanced at the contents of the scroll and couldn't help but laugh inside. Fugaku didn't disappoint him. He successfully sent out. No, sold the information. This is impossible. From initial confusion to gradual doubt, and finally to a furrowed brow, Tsunade's expression changed drastically. Could it be that the daimyo asked about an Anbu member named Tenzo right away just to confirm the accuracy of the intelligence? Did the old man really do something like this? Tsunade knew the village secretly researched her grandfather Senju Hashirama's cells, aiming to replicate the wood style. However, she believed the research had been halted due to slow progress. Who would have thought that while it appeared to have been stopped, the research continued in secret? Even Orochimaru was involved. No wonder Orochimaru was acting strangely at that time, always staying close to Denzo. No wonder Denzo was so eager to take in more orphans. It was all preparation for these experiments. Tsunade's grip tightened, her fingers piercing through the scroll. Her hand and the skin on her knuckles turned white from the force. Where did this information come from? Tsunade was furious. It was evident from the torn scroll and the almost bursting seams of her clothes that she was livid. The Bounty Guild. The daimyo didn't intend to hide anything. After all, the information was bought, not leaked by him. Moreover, the ones who should be condemned and questioned are the third Hokage and Denzo, not him. As for Orochimaru, at most, he'd just be blamed since he's already a rogue ninja. Ever since the attack, Kakashi had been recovering. At the moment, he was lying in the courtyard, reading a book to pass the time. The sound of hurried footsteps approached quickly. Kakashi put away his book and looked toward the courtyard gate. Tsunade. Seeing that it was Tsunade and Kazuki, Kakashi immediately stood up and bowed to Tsunade. But at this moment, Tsunade couldn't care less about these formalities. In her rage, she didn't give Kakashi a chance to see her usual face. Grabbing him by the collar, she angrily asked, "Kakashi, tell me, is there an Anbu named Tenzo?" Kakashi froze for a moment, then obediently nodded and replied, "Yes." "Is this Tenzo someone who came from Root and was code-named A in Root?" "Yes." "Can he use the wood style?" This question was more pointed, and Kakashi hesitated. The third Hokage had instructed him to keep Tenzo's situation confidential. But Tsunade was a high-ranking official in the village, and she had the right to know this information. "Should I leave?" Kazuki shrugged. "No need." Tsunade, her face cold, released Kakashi. "Kakashi, tell me the truth. This is important." "Lord Hokage, I'm not intentionally leaking village information, but Tsunadeheim forced me." Kakashi inwardly apologized to the third Hokage. "Yes." A simple answer, but it crushed the last bit of hope in Tsunade's heart. Everything was true, all the information was true. As for how the information got leaked, Tsunade didn't want to concern herself with that right now. Kazuki decided to slip away. He couldn't keep watching this show, or he might get caught in the crossfire. Kazuki promptly left. He could watch the drama from the sidelines, eating popcorn in peace. "Captain, what's making you so happy? Get lost, why are you everywhere?" Kazuki pushed away the approaching Jiro and said irritably, "Pass the word. Tell the clan members to prepare, we're returning to the village tomorrow. And have Shizue come to see me." "All right." Hearing Kazuki say they could go back to the village, Jiro happily ran out to inform the clan members to get ready. Not long after, Shizue arrived at Kazuki's room. "Take a seat." Kazuki, holding a teacup, gestured for Shizue to sit down, and Shizue obediently did so. After Shizue sat down, Kazuki set his teacup down. "Just now, Tsunadeheim and I went to meet the daimyo. From him, we learned something shocking and disgraceful." "Does it involve the village?" Shizue grasped the key point. The daimyo specifically summoned Kazuki and Tsunade, and since this matter was learned from the daimyo, it must be related to the village. "Yes." Shizue had a knack for focusing on the main point, saving Kazuki a lot of trouble. Kazuki then briefly recounted what happened in the palace. Shizue's expression went from shock to disbelief, leaving him utterly disoriented. He felt like his brain was exploding. The village. No, the Hokage. Did something like this? Experimenting with the first Hokage's cells was one thing, but deliberately collecting war orphans for experimentation, even using the village's own citizens and ninjas? Is this really the Hokage he knew? Many of these actions didn't involve the third Hokage directly, but Kazuki had dragged him into it as Denzo's accomplice. Whatever Denzo did, you supported it because you're the Hokage. Without your support, Denzo wouldn't have had such power. So, it's the same as if you were involved. Shizue was in shock. Chapter 101, Kazuki patted his shoulder and said earnestly, "Shizue, tomorrow I will lead everyone back to the village with Tsunadeheim. I hope you can stay behind to continue protecting the daimyo. Some things must remain hidden, and if they are exposed, the consequences could be severe. I'm afraid Denzo might take desperate measures. Regardless of who leaked the information, it always seems to involve the daimyo. If pushed into a corner, there's no telling what Denzo might do to the daimyo." As for whether Denzo would be brought down, Kazuki could only say, "There's no chance of that. Just look at Orochimaru. If the third Hokage hadn't been so soft-hearted, even with Orochimaru's exceptional escape skills, it wouldn't have been so easy for him to slip out of Hidden Leaf Village. Not to mention, the third Hokage sees Denzo as even more important than Orochimaru. If things get out of hand, not only will he not punish Denzo, but he might even help him escape. The intelligence from Root and the village was leaked, and the information was first spread from the daimyo. This is very disadvantageous for him. The numerous charges are chilling." Shizue couldn't believe that the person he once trusted so much had such a dark side. "Oh, I also need to go back and investigate the clan's genealogical records. I need to see if anyone in the clan went missing mysteriously or lost their Sharingan around the time the Third Shinobi War ended. I suspect these things were also done by Denzo and Orochimaru. Regardless of the results, blaming you first is always right. Orochimaru and Denzo have been targeting the Uchiha clan for a long time, so it's not unfair for them to take the blame. Moreover, Denzo has been secretly collecting Sharingan all along. I understand. I'll stay behind and protect the daimyo from the shadows." After a long while, Shizue finally managed to digest the shocking news and solemnly promised Kazuki that he would ensure the daimyo's safety. "As long as you have the will, that's good. There are many issues with the clan and the village, so I'll rely on you to take care of things at the daimyo's residence. And be very careful with Denzo. If you end up fighting him, be wary. This old guy isn't simple, especially his bandaged eye and arm." In the original story, Shizue lost one of his eyes to Denzo because he underestimated him, thinking he had successfully controlled Denzo with Genjutsu. However, Denzo used Izanagi to catch Shizue off guard and took one of his Sharingan. Until the situation in the village stabilizes, Kazuki doesn't want Shizue to return. It's better to keep him at the daimyo's residence. Plus, it gives them a chance to use Denzo's crimes as an excuse to keep Shizue there. After Shizue left, Kazuki was about to pack up his things. During his time at the daimyo's residence, without any patrols or missions, he had mostly been resting. Whenever he had free time, Kazuki would go out for a walk. Compared to Hidden Leaf Village, the daimyo's residence is more prosperous. Here, as long as you wave money around, you can buy many things that are hard to find in Hidden Leaf Village. Kazuki bought some small gifts for Izumi and her mother, Hazuki. He had promised to visit them for a long time, and delaying it any further would be rude. Kazuki planned to visit Izumi's house once he returned to the village. Kakashi, I'll return to the village as soon as possible. I need you to stay here at the daimyo's residence and keep an eye on that rascal Asuma. Don't let him cause any more trouble. Tsunoda still had to give instructions, especially regarding Asuma. It wasn't that Tsunoda cared deeply for Asuma, but she was worried that after she left, Asuma might cause some trouble. Previously, someone would always clean up after him, but now that the third Hokage had his hands full, who would help him? Therefore, Tsunoda could only hope that Kakashi would keep an eye on Asuma. The daimyo now saw the third Hokage and Denzo as thorns in his side, and even Asuma was viewed unfavorably. If Asuma caused any trouble at the daimyo's residence, he'd be in big trouble. Don't worry, Tsunoda-hime. I'll keep an eye on Asuma and won't give him any chance to act out. Having been classmates before, even though they graduated early, Kakashi knew what kind of person Asuma was. Without his status, Asuma would have been seen as nothing more than a small-time thug. Good. I'll leave Asuma to you. I trust you. Tsunoda sighed. Something big is going to happen in the village, and it will have a major impact. I don't even know what the situation will be like tomorrow. I'll leave the daimyo in your hands. Although Kakashi had closed off his heart, he was efficient and obedient. Entrusting Asuma to him gave Tsunoda some peace of mind. The village. Kakashi hesitated for a moment, but Tsunoda interrupted him before he could finish. You don't need to think about it or worry about it. I'll handle it. Believe in the village. In a few days, even you, at the daimyo's residence, will hear the news. Waving her hand to cut off Kakashi, Tsunoda furrowed her brow deeply. Old man, you've really given me a difficult problem. Massaging her throbbing temples, Tsunoda urged herself not to dwell on it and decided to deal with everything once she returned to the village. By the way, how's your eye recovering? My eye? Because Shizune had warned him not to use the Sharingan right after the transplant, Kakashi had been dutifully resting and hadn't tried using it. It should be fine, but the chakra flow seems a bit blocked, probably due to the injury and the eye transplant. Upon hearing this, Tsunoda thought for a moment and said, after some time, it should adapt. After all, this eye doesn't belong to you, and you don't have Uchiha blood. Issues like chakra blockage, the inability to deactivate the Sharingan, and continuous chakra and mental energy depletion will be noticeable. I understand. Thank you for your concern, Tsunoda-hime. Recently, Kakashi had felt that something was off with his eye, but he couldn't pinpoint what it was. After hearing Tsunoda's words, he felt completely reassured. If one day, Obito comes looking for Kakashi and finds out his eye has been swapped, he might cough up blood in anger. Get some good rest. Tsunoda patted Kakashi's shoulder in encouragement and left decisively. There were still many things waiting for her attention, and she didn't have much time to comfort Kakashi. Moreover, Kakashi's heart was too closed off. If nothing happened, he wouldn't say a word for half a day. Trying to have a heart-to-heart talk with him was difficult because she didn't even know what to talk about. It will recover, right? After Tsunoda left, Kakashi covered the eye hidden beneath his forehead protector and muttered to himself. Having settled things with Kakashi, Tsunoda went to check on Asuma, who was lounging in the sun with bandages wrapped around his head and his legs crossed. Just seeing him made the veins on Tsunoda's forehead pop out. She had an inexplicable urge to rush into the courtyard and give Asuma a good beating. Chapter 102. Fortunately, Asuma was fine, recovering well, and still carefree, so she was relieved. What she feared the most was that after being humiliated by Kazuki, Asuma would be devastated, becoming confused or shutting down emotionally like Kakashi. But it turned out she was overthinking it. Asuma had a much bigger heart than she had imagined. He didn't show any signs of being upset, in fact, he seemed quite at ease. Suppressing the urge to give Asuma a good beating, Tsunoda left with a dark expression. Shizune was packing things up. Tsunoda had made quite a bit of money recently, and after paying off some debts, Shizune had more financial leeway. So she bought a lot of gifts that girls like, planning to bring them back to Hidden Leaf Village. Shizune, I need to return to the village first. I'll leave this place to you. Huh? Shizune's hands shook, and she looked up in panic. What did she mean by leave this place to you? What does that even mean? Tsunade didn't care how Shizune felt and candidly told her, I need to return to Hidden Leaf Village ahead of time, so I can only leave things here to you. I've already notified the accompanying Jonin, they'll lead everyone back to Hidden Leaf Village with you. If you encounter any trouble, you can go to Kazuki and tell him it's my order. So she's just dumping this on me? I've never done this kind of thing. Shizune was so anxious she was about to cry. Don't be fooled by how those accompanying Jonin seem easygoing, that's only because Tsunade was around, and no one dared to have any other thoughts. Now that Tsunade was gone and left everything to her, it was inevitable that some might not accept it. If something like that happens, can she really handle it? Lady Tsunade. She left, just like that, abandoning everything, leaving Shizune feeling helpless and abandoned. Just like last time in Tsunuki Street, and again this time. I can't, I need to talk to Kazuki. Feeling restless, Shizune couldn't even finish packing and immediately headed to Uchiha's temporary residence. Tsunade has already left? Upon hearing this news, Kazuki wasn't too surprised, just a little taken aback. After all, whether she returns alone today or with everyone tomorrow, the time difference wouldn't be too significant. It seems Tsunade was really in a hurry. Even if there are more people, as long as they don't dawdle like the third Hokage, they can generally make it back to Hidden Leaf Village within a day. Leaving early or leading the group back doesn't make much difference. So, what are you worried about? Are you afraid someone won't follow orders or that someone will challenge you? Aren't you scared? Shizune asked naively. Ow! As soon as she finished speaking, Kazuki gave her a light smack on the forehead. Raising his hand to knock on Shizune's forehead, Kazuki said irritably, what's there to be scared of? From the daimyo's palace to Hidden Leaf Village, if we move quickly, we can leave in the morning and arrive by nightfall. What could happen? Besides, it's not wartime right now. Who would come out to cause trouble? Instead of worrying about these things, you'd better hurry back and finish packing so we can leave early tomorrow. Her forehead hurt, and it seemed a little swollen. Shizune, who was fine when she came, was now clutching her forehead and grimacing in pain on her way back. Fortunately, despite the pain, with Kazuki's reassurance, she felt at ease. As long as there were no unexpected troubles, everything would be fine. Otherwise, she wouldn't know how to explain it to Tsunade when they returned to the village. Early the next morning, the ninjas from the village and the Uchiha clan who were heading to the daimyo's palace began to gather. Let's go. Once everyone was almost ready, Kazuki didn't waste any time and started running ahead, with the Uchiha clan members immediately following him. Shizune hesitated for 2 seconds but decided to follow Kazuki. The few leading Jonin looked helplessly at Shizune, who had already run far ahead, and could only lead their teams to catch up. The Uchiha clan members ran in front while the village's ninjas followed behind, giving the impression that the Uchiha were leading everyone. At this time, before dawn, Tsunade, who had been traveling overnight back to Hidden Leaf Village, also arrived safely. After rushing all night, the exhausted Tsunade didn't even rest and went straight to the Hokage's office. Luckily, the third Hokage was already in the office, starting his work, so Tsunade didn't miss him. Bang! The office door was forcefully pushed open, and the third Hokage, who was reviewing documents, had his hand tremble, causing a long scratch on the paper. Speechlessly putting down his pen and closing the file, the third Hokage looked up. Tsunade, you should have notified the village before coming back. Notify my ass. Tsunade swore, the situation is critical, and you expect me to wait to notify the village? Old man, you've really disappointed me. I never thought you'd be so biased towards Tenzo and Orochimaru to this extent. What was going on? Right off the bat, he was harshly criticized by Tsunade for being biased towards Tenzo and even bringing up Orochimaru. Not giving the third Hokage any chance to question or explain, Tsunade directly ordered the Anbu ninja at the door, immediately notify the members of the Elder Council to come to the Hokage office for an urgent meeting. Also, inform Jiraiya and the Uchiha clan leader as well. Jiraiya had the qualifications, but he usually didn't want to come. As for Fugaku Uchiha, he wanted to attend but didn't have the qualifications to participate. Yes. Sensing the seriousness of the situation, the Anbu ninja quickly left. After the Anbu left, the third Hokage finally found an opportunity to speak. Tsunade, what happened that requires a meeting with the Elder Council? You know exactly what you've done. Tsunade threw the scroll she brought from the daimyo at the third Hokage and then sat down on the sofa, intending to rest a bit before the Elder Council arrived. What I did. The third Hokage felt wronged. He had been working diligently and hadn't done anything questionable recently. He hadn't even had time to deal with the Uchiha. He was filled with doubt. The third Hokage quickly opened the scroll to read it. If it weren't something extremely important, Tsunade wouldn't have rushed back to the village without notifying anyone. It looked like she had returned alone, and as soon as she walked into the Hokage office, she criticized him and then ordered the Anbu to notify the Elder Council for an emergency meeting. Hey, as the third Hokage opened the scroll and carefully read it, Tsunade let out a self-mocking laugh, hoping he wouldn't be too shocked. This is impossible. Just as Tsunade expected, within a few seconds, the third Hokage, as if he had a spring under his chair, jumped up, his age-spotted face changing color instantly. His pupils kept contracting, clearly showing how shocked he was. Who is it? Who would betray the village and leak such critical information? The shocking content within the scroll made the third Hokage's heart sink to the bottom. If the scroll hadn't been brought back by Tsunade, he wouldn't have believed that such vital information had been leaked. Was it Denzo? Chapter 103, No, Denzo shouldn't do something as stupid as digging his own grave. Even if he's being monitored and is in a desperate situation, he wouldn't do something so foolish. Is it Orochimaru then? The third Hokage, both shocked and angry, began to suspect. Denzo's suspicion was too small, so the third Hokage immediately shifted his suspicions to Orochimaru. A large part of the experiments mentioned in the scrolls was handled and participated in by Orochimaru. Denzo was the mastermind, but the blame ultimately fell on Orochimaru. Is this the main point? Tsunade couldn't help but roar, although it's despicable that someone sold out the village's information, and I really want to catch this person, old man, don't you think this is ridiculous? The village has done so many dark things behind my back, and you and Denzo still have the nerve to say it's all for the good of the village. Is Hidden Leaf Village no longer Hidden Leaf Village with outward style? What angered Tsunade the most wasn't the fact that the village used the first Hokage, Senju Hashirama's cells for experiments, since after all, it was Senju Dobirama who started it. The third Hokage and others inherited Senju Dobirama's will, so doing these things wasn't surprising. Tsunade was aware of some of the early experiments. All of it was in the past, and the experiments had been stopped. Even if she was unhappy, she wouldn't say much about it. But what happened? Collecting war orphans from the battlefield for experiments? And even using Hidden Leaf Village's villagers and ninjas. How heartless can one be? Didn't you say the experiments had been stopped? Then why is this still happening? War orphans, and even Hidden Leaf Village's villagers and ninjas have suffered because of this. Is wood style really that important? Tsunade roared, her eyes red with anger. The third Hokage, sweating profusely, quickly put down the scroll and raised his hand to explain. Tsunade, please believe me, although I've made many mistakes, I did indeed order the wood-style experiments to be stopped. I was unaware of any subsequent experiments. So it was all Orochimaru's doing? Tsunade sneered coldly. Is that even possible? Does Orochimaru have that much authority? Such experiments require enormous funding. Just the expensive medical equipment and various drugs would be more than enough for Orochimaru to handle. Without sufficient funds, Orochimaru wouldn't be able to conduct experiments. To say that the village didn't support this, Tsunade would never believe it. This is true. The third Hokage smiled bitterly. He didn't know about Orochimaru's experiments, but he knew Denzo was involved. However, in the end, Denzo distanced himself and made Orochimaru take the blame. The third Hokage didn't want this scandal to spread, so he publicly declared that Orochimaru had defected from the village and became a rogue ninja. The rest was kept hidden. Where did the funding for the experiments come from? It was obvious, from the finance department and the logistics department. At that time, Denzo had the authority to allocate some of the financial resources and materials from the logistics department. In this, the two elder advisors also played a significant role. Tsunade, furious, kept taking deep breaths to control her rampaging emotions. She feared that she might lose control and punch the third Hokage in the face. Crack. At this moment, the window of the Hokage's office was opened, and Jiraiya, who was lying on the windowsill, saw the angry Tsunade and the guilty and remorseful third Hokage looking at him. He instinctively squeezed his legs together, scratched his head, and laughed awkwardly. It seems like I've come at the wrong time. Sai, come in. If Tsunade could run back from the daimyo's mansion and bring back such information, it meant that the matter couldn't be covered up anymore. The third Hokage no longer had any intention of hiding it. He directly handed the scroll to Jiraiya. Jiraiya cautiously jumped into the office and leaned against the window to read. While reading the scroll, he didn't forget to observe Tsunade out of the corner of his eye. In case Tsunade showed any signs of losing her temper, he was ready to escape through the nearby window. Even though he hadn't done anything wrong, Jiraiya had formed a habit of being cautious in such situations. When Tsunade is angry, never, ever get too close to her, or you'll get beaten up. But the alertness and caution only lasted a few seconds. Holding the scroll, Jiraiya quickly forgot the possibility of Tsunade hitting someone. He looked up in shock at the third Hokage, then at Tsunade, who was standing to the side with her arms crossed and a dark expression. His heart sank. Could all this be true? Ahahaha. Laughing dryly, Jiraiya pulled his gaze back and looked at the scroll again, trying to laugh it off. Old man, don't joke with me like this early in the morning. Naruto has to go to school later, and I still need to take him to breakfast. Are you blind or brainless? How can something like this be a joke? Tsunade almost lost control of her emotions, glaring directly at him. Jiraiya quickly threw the scroll aside and hid behind the third Hokage, poking his head out. Tsunade, let's talk this over, don't resort to violence. Humphrey. Why don't you ask the old man yourself? They've done such a good job, and now it's been exposed. The intelligence scroll was even bought by the daimyo from a bounty exchange. It's likely that daimyos from other countries have also bought the same information. This is a big deal. Jiraiya's mouth fell open. Old man, please tell me that all of this is fake, that the intelligence is inaccurate. I also wish it were fake. Tsunade wanted to see how the third Hokage would defend himself. Faced with his disciples' questioning, the third Hokage opened his mouth, wanting to explain, but found himself unable to say a word. He could only face Tsunade and Jiraiya with silence. Most of the information in the scroll was true, with only a small part being false. At this point, the truth or falsehood no longer mattered. Even if there were some personal vendettas mixed in, the overall direction was correct. The third Hokage had no way to defend himself. The third Hokage chose silence, and silence meant admission. Tsunade sat back on the sofa in disappointment, while Jiraiya felt like his mind was about to explode. If you want to do experiments, just do experiments, but why desecrate the first Hokage's body? And that's not all, why target poor orphans, and even the villagers and ninjas of the village? That's going too far. The content of the scroll was shocking, the actions were heartless, completely devoid of humanity. It's not just Tsunade who was disappointed. At this moment, even Jiraiya felt deep disappointment in the third Hokage. The Hokage's office fell silent. The three of them, master and students, didn't speak. Tsunade was angry, the third Hokage was filled with guilt and regret, and Jiraiya was torn with conflicting emotions. Hiruzen, what could have happened so early that you gathered everyone here? Soon after, the two elder advisors were the first to arrive at the Hokage's office. The moment they opened the door and walked in, they noticed the strange atmosphere in the Hokage's office. Chapter 104, Tsunade was like a volcano on the verge of eruption, barely holding back, with flames practically radiating from her body, making no one dare to approach her. Jiraiya stood nearby, looking down with a gloomy expression, lost in thought. Let's wait until everyone is here before we discuss anything. The third Hokage said after hesitating, deciding to wait until everyone had arrived before revealing the truth. Being called to a meeting before dawn left Fugaku feeling both anxious and full of anticipation. He was anxious because, for once, the Uchiha clan had not been excluded from the village's Council of Elders meeting. His anticipation came from the hope that this might signify a shift in the village's relationship with the Uchiha. The number of people attending this meeting was overwhelming, making the Hokage's office feel cramped, so the meeting was moved to the conference room. Fugaku's anxiety didn't last long. Upon arriving at the Hokage's office and following the third Hokage and others to the conference room, he realized that something significant was happening. Could it be related to the information Kazuki provided? He hoped it wouldn't cause any trouble for the Uchiha. I'm sorry for calling everyone to the Hokage's office so early, said the third Hokage, standing up and bowing apologetically to the assembled group. Huh? Hokage-sama, what are you doing? Several people who were unaware of the situation were taken aback by the third Hokage's sudden gesture. Among them, Okimeki Choza reacted the most dramatically, nearly breaking his chair as he waved his large, fleshy hands and exclaimed. Third Hokage, even if you feel guilty, you don't have to bow to everyone. What's going on? Tell us. Something unusual was definitely going on, and the third Hokage's apologetic opening had everyone on edge. Fugaku's heart pounded wildly, terrified that he might have left some trace that could expose him. Say what you have to say, Hiruzen. This is unbecoming, said Koharu, feeling a loss of face. The Hokage had summoned everyone to a meeting only to begin by bowing and apologizing, which she found disgraceful. He should apologize. Tsunade suddenly interjected. Tsunade, what are you saying? Koharu angrily reprimanded her. Hiruzen is your teacher, you. Enough from someone who knows nothing. Tsunade interrupted disdainfully. I suspect you had a hand in these disgraceful deeds. Otherwise, Where would Denzo get such power and influence? Tsunoda's words struck Koharu, cutting off her rebuke. All she could think of was how Tsunoda had proposed strengthening medical ninjas, which Koharu had vehemently opposed, arguing that the village's budget was too tight to support such an initiative. Eventually, Tsunoda's idea was proven right, and the village quietly began increasing support for medical ninja training. Koharu was fuming but could say nothing more. Enough. The third Hokage raised his voice as Koharu was about to argue back. Koharu, Tsunoda is right. I should apologize to everyone, and to the people of Hidden Leaf Village. Koharu, now red-faced with frustration, was unable to counter the third Hokage, who had just sided with Tsunoda. Shikaku, distribute the documents. The third Hokage instructed. Yes, Hokage-sama. Nara Shikaku began handing out the copies, though the contents had left him nearly terrified while preparing them. As he handed out the documents, Shikaku quietly stepped back, not wanting to be caught in the impending storm in the room. Thud. Koharu Uchiha, the first to read the document, jumped to her feet in shock, knocking her chair over with a loud crash. But her dramatic reaction failed to distract the others, who were equally engrossed in the documents. Fugaku, his scalp tingling, recognized the information as the very intelligence he had secretly leaked. How could this be? Hamura kept rubbing his eyes, afraid he was seeing things. This can't be real. Who leaked such vital information? Hiruzen, what is the meaning of this? Hamura demanded. I suspect Orochimaru is responsible. Denzo said, deflecting blame. Knowing he couldn't take the fall, he pointed to Orochimaru, who was both knowledgeable about these events and had a motive as Hidden Leaf Village's rogue ninja. So Denzo and Orochimaru succeeded? Choza muttered before realizing he might have said too much. He quickly shut his mouth, not daring to speak further, though his words had already cast suspicion on the third Hokage, Denzo, and Orochimaru, nailing them to the proverbial wall. Tsunoda let out a bitter laugh. So everyone knew about this except her? Sitting next to her, Jiraiya still seemed dazed, unable to fully process what was happening. The others in the room were equally stunned, unable to believe what they were reading, though the documents confirmed everything. Where did this information come from? Koharu clutched the document tightly, her first instinct being to cover it up. Regardless of who leaked it, such crucial information must be kept secret. Otherwise, the village will face severe consequences. The third Hokage, seated at the head of the table, shook his head silently. Tsunoda, seeing this, confronted Koharu directly. The information came from the daimyo himself. Satisfied now, elder? Koharu's face turned ashen. Information leaked from the daimyo meant it couldn't be contained. In a few days, the entire village would know, and the people of Hidden Leaf Village would learn of the village's heinous deeds. The villagers' reaction could only be imagined. Instead of worrying about assigning blame, you should be considering the consequences once this news spreads. How do you think the villagers will view you? Tsunoda's words struck deep, leaving the room in a heavy silence. Chapter 105. Aside from that, we also need to guard against other villages. If the information leaks out, other villages will definitely believe that Hidden Leaf Village has a way to replicate Wood's style. They will keep a close watch on us, use this against us, smear us, slander us, and even send spies continuously into the village to gather intelligence. The third Hokage, unable to control his emotions, picked up his pipe, lit it, and took deep puffs, filling the meeting room with smoke. I will give the villagers an explanation. That's easy for you to say. Tsunoda wanted to lash out at the third Hokage but ultimately decided to hold back, not going too far. She sat back down in her chair, gritting her teeth, and said, Old man, make everything public. The people have the right to know, and we want to know what exactly happened. I agree. Jiraiya, who had always chosen to avoid the issue, decided to stand with Tsunoda on this. He felt that he shouldn't remain silent any longer, otherwise, his conscience wouldn't be at peace. He could kill enemies, gather intelligence, and disrupt other villages without batting an eye. But the fact that the village experimented on war orphans, and even on Hidden Leaf Village's own villagers and ninjas, was something Jiraiya could not accept. Tsunoda, what's most important right now is to deal with. Koharu tried to suppress the matter. The third Hokage interrupted her. Koharu, that's enough. I think Tsunoda is right, everyone has the right to know all of this. But Koharu was unwilling to let it go, but Hamura shook his head slightly at her. It was already too late to come up with a plan. They had to be prepared to face the storm. Continuing to hide the truth now would be meaningless, it would be better to come clean. With Hamura's persuasion, Koharu reluctantly sat down. It all started with my teacher. The third Hokage put down his pipe and began to reminisce. To maintain order and peace in the ninja world, my teacher initiated experiments on Wood style. Although the research inevitably involved the cells of the first Hokage, My teacher did not touch the first Hokage's remains, only retaining some cells for research. The research faced many obstacles, and eventually, the Ninja World War broke out. After the war, my teacher died in battle, and I became the third Hokage of the village, inheriting my teacher's will and continuing the experiments on wood style. After years of experimentation, the replication of wood style was fraught with difficulties. In the end, I halted all experiments and research related to wood style. What about Denzo and Orochimaru? Tsunade didn't believe that the third Hokage was unaware. Don't tell me you didn't know. Without the village's support, Denzo and Orochimaru wouldn't have had the authority to mobilize sufficient funds and equipment. Faced with Tsunade's questioning, the third Hokage hesitated for a moment. Hamura, sitting beside him, quickly intervened. This is where Koharu and I were negligent. Denzo applied for a lot of funds and equipment to expand the size of Root. We didn't know he was using them for experiments, so we approved it. This was their fault, no way around it, because initially, the third Hokage really didn't know. Such negligence. Tsunade sneered. She had finally seen through these two advisors. They had no part in good deeds, but they sure could stir up trouble. After Tsunade's ridicule, the two were embarrassed, but they had nothing to retort. They could only curse Denzo and Orochimaru in their hearts. It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, things wouldn't have turned out this way. What a disgrace. The third Hokage didn't mind this and continued. During the Third Ninja World War, Denzo and Orochimaru's behavior became strange. They used the war as an excuse to experiment on the war orphans collected from the battlefield. Even after the war ended, they didn't stop. The cells of the first Hokage are terrifying. Once transplanted into a human body, they would mutate, turning the test subjects into trees. The experiments encountered many difficulties, and many people died. Because the war had ended, there were not enough test subjects. When I began paying attention to the orphanage, Orochimaru turned his attention to the villagers and ninjas of the village. The expressions of everyone present grew increasingly grim. Like Jiraiya, although they didn't agree with such cruel experiments, they only had an instinctual aversion. But extending this to villagers and the village's ninjas was something that couldn't be accepted. According to the records of the police department, during the time after the Third Ninja World War ended, many people, including ninjas, indeed went missing in the village, some of whom were even from the Uchiha clan. Fugaku Uchiha inserted a comment just in time. Experimenting on clan ninjas? The bottom line was being crossed repeatedly. Everyone present became unsettled. Experimenting on villagers and the village's ninjas had already crossed the line. Experimenting on clan ninjas was like stabbing the ninja clans of Hidden Leaf Village in the back. The most missing people were from the Shimura clan. Whether they were captured or sent voluntarily is unknown. The Shimura clan leader tried to deflect the blame in a critical moment. The Shimura clan strongly supported Denzo, didn't they? Well then, let's see if they can handle this. All eyes turned to the Shimura clan leader. The Shimura clan leader's face turned pale. Damn you, Fugaku Uchiha, nobody asked you to speak. Who asked you to open your mouth? Nonsense. The Shimura clan would never support such heinous acts. The Shimura clan leader was desperate to protect himself. Hokage-sama, the Shimura clan never participated in these actions, and it's impossible that we sent our clan members and ninjas for experiments. This blame could not be taken, or the Shimura clan would be finished, completely finished. Alright, I believe you, and I believe in the Shimura clan. The third Hokage didn't let the Shimura clan take the fall. Whether they supported Denzo in this or not, he wouldn't let them bear the blame. Thank you, Hokage-sama, for your trust. The Shimura clan leader was so moved he was about to cry. He didn't forget to glare viciously at Fugaku. Fugaku Uchiha, you're something else. What happened afterward, everyone knows. I realized that Orochimaru had a dark heart, so I recommended Minato to become the fourth Hokage of the village. Orochimaru's actions were quickly uncovered by the Anbu. The occurrence of such events is my fault and my dereliction of duty. I will give the villagers an explanation. Now, let's discuss the election of the fifth Hokage. This incident would definitely cause an earthquake, and the third Hokage was well aware that he would no longer be able to remain in his position. So he took the opportunity to suggest stepping down and let everyone elect a suitable candidate. Wait. Tsunade raised her hand, not giving the third Hokage any chance to back down. She directly asked, we can postpone the matter of the Hokage candidates for now. I want to know, old man, how will you deal with Denzo? This was a hot potato, one that would burn anyone who touched it. Chapter 106, well, he's been cornered. With so many people present and such an undeniable charge, the third Hokage couldn't avoid the situation, even if he wanted to. He managed to extricate himself, but what about Denzo? Denzo couldn't escape. Orochimaru became a rogue ninja and couldn't be dealt with, but Denzo was still in the village, leisurely enjoying his retirement. Does someone like that deserve it? Faced with the gazes of the crowd, the third Hokage felt extremely conflicted but ultimately had no choice but to make a difficult decision. I propose we eliminate Root and imprison Denzo, locking him up in Hidden Leaf Village's prison. Denzo's status was sensitive, and the contributions and merits he'd made were significant. Dealing with a high-ranking official wasn't a good thing for Hidden Leaf Village, so the best course of action was to imprison him in Hidden Leaf Village's jail. He would be locked away for life, until he died of old age in there. He knew that this decision would leave many people unsatisfied. There's even a chance Denzo might escape. The third Hokage continued, given Denzo's position as an advisor to the Hokage, with considerable power, and his possible placement of his own people in the Anbu and other places, I suggest that Denzo be imprisoned and guarded by the Uchiha clan. Are you satisfied with this outcome? Denzo might have left behind people in various places throughout Hidden Leaf Village, but definitely not within the Uchiha clan. The Uchiha hated Denzo and would wish for nothing more than his quick demise. They wouldn't even think of helping him escape or do anything for him. It would be considered a good deed if they didn't kill him outright. Hokage-sama, I believe that such a task might be difficult for the Uchiha too. Denzo was completely toppled, and Fugaku was pleased, but he didn't want the Uchiha clan to be responsible for guarding him. Denzo was too cunning, too insidious. If something went wrong, the blame would definitely fall on the Uchiha. This kind of thankless task wasn't something they should take on. I trust you, I trust the Uchiha. Fugaku, you won't disappoint me, will you? You've put it like this. How can I refuse? Frustrated, Fugaku grudgingly accepted. So now let's elect a candidate for the fifth Hokage. Striking while the iron was hot, the third Hokage wanted to deal with everything at once, or else when the storm hit, they would be caught off guard. Who was qualified to become the fifth Hokage? Everyone's eyes instinctively turned to Tsunade and Jiraiya. Even Koharu, who had never seen eye to eye with Tsunade, hoped that either Tsunade or Jiraiya would step forward and take on this responsibility. Don't look at me, I can't possibly become Hokage. Jiraiya shook his head like a rattle drum. He was happy to take on missions, but becoming Hokage? He'd rather pass on that. Jiraiya had the ability to become Hokage, but he didn't want to be nailed to the Hokage office because of the position. He still had to take care of Naruto, and there were many other things he needed to do, like searching for the new savior. With Jiraiya voluntarily withdrawing, it essentially announced that Tsunade was the Hokage candidate. But Tsunade hesitated. To be honest, she didn't really want to stay in the village, much less become Hokage. The past events had left her with deep psychological scars. For her, nothing good ever came from being involved with the position of Hokage. In all fairness, Tsunade didn't want to become Hokage, but the choice wasn't up to her. Then it's settled. Tsunade it is. Whether in terms of identity, strength, or reputation, I believe the villagers will accept her. Before Tsunade could respond, the third Hokage decisively made the decision. Kazuki's plan had succeeded. Fugaku appeared calm on the surface, but in reality, he was secretly thrilled. What had the Uchiha been waiting for if not this outcome? Even if the policies targeting the Uchiha didn't change, at least the situation wouldn't be as extreme as before. Tsunade wasn't as heartless as the third Hokage and Denzo, and she wouldn't learn from them to keep pressing the Uchiha. Hayashi's gaze swept over Fugaku, who remained calm as he stared at the table, but suspicion grew in Hayashi's heart. It seemed like I had no choice or right to refuse. Jiraiya was unwilling, the third Hokage had made the decision, and the others all nodded in agreement. Tsunade becoming the fifth Hokage meant that almost no one in Hidden Leaf Village would come out against it. Even Denzo, who had always dreamt of becoming Hokage. Of course, Denzo could be ignored because whether he had an opinion or not didn't matter anymore. Because what awaited him was indefinite imprisonment in Hidden Leaf Village's jail, guarded solely by the Uchiha clan. Being guarded by a clan he had once targeted, one could imagine how hard Denzo's days in Hidden Leaf Village's prison would be. It's a good thing Kazuki was still on his way to Hidden Leaf Village. Otherwise, if he knew about this, he would definitely die laughing and would eagerly take on the task of heading to the prison to personally host Denzo. The Hokage candidate was selected. Tsunade. And all the blame was pinned on Denzo and Orochimaru. The third Hokage, Koharu, and Hamura were at least safe, at most guilty of negligence. As Fugaku left the Hokage building, intending to return to his clan, he was stopped by Hayashi. It seems the Uchiha have gained a lot. I don't understand what the head of the Hyuga clan is implying. Fugaku slightly shook his head. Regardless of the Uchiha's role in this, it was something he couldn't admit to. Never. Otherwise, if the news got out, the Uchiha would be in deep trouble. Perhaps. Hayashi didn't expect to uncover Fugaku's secrets with just a single sentence. After exchanging a few polite words, they ended the confusing conversation and went their separate ways, returning to their respective clans. The village moved quickly. Almost as soon as the meeting ended, various countermeasures were in place. Since they couldn't keep it hidden, they decided to make it public. Once the news spread, they would announce everything. Those who needed to confess would confess, those who needed to retire would retire, and no, Yamato would be brought into the spotlight. Denzo was completely unaware of what was happening outside. The third Hokage had issued a warning, and Anbu had made targeted arrangements. Denzo's informants within Anbu couldn't even find an opportunity to pass along any information to him. Let alone that the news hadn't spread yet, very few people knew about it. The third Hokage, accompanied by Tsunade and Jiraiya, personally came to visit. Regarding Denzo's punishment, Tsunade and Jiraiya had no objections, but they didn't want to see the third Hokage go alone, so they chose to follow him. Not that they were worried about Denzo being a threat to the third Hokage. They were more concerned about a repeat of Orochimaru's escape. Both knew very well how Orochimaru had managed to escape. The third Hokage had led Anbu, yet they couldn't stop even Orochimaru. It was almost laughable. Even though Orochimaru was powerful, with excellent escape skills and many contingencies in place. With the third Hokage leading and the entire Anbu involved, it should have been enough to give Orochimaru a hard time. Yet, in the end, Orochimaru got away cleanly without leaving a trace, giving Anbu no clues to follow. The twists and turns of the situation were unclear to most, but Tsunade and Jiraiya knew full well. The third Hokage had deliberately let Orochimaru go. Chapter 107. It was one thing to deliberately overlook Orochimaru's actions, but now Denzo couldn't be allowed to play that same trick. If Denzo were to escape, they wouldn't be able to explain it to the villagers and the daimyo. The only way to quell the anger of the villagers and the daimyo is to capture Denzo and send him to prison. Hiruzen, what do you mean by this? The third Hokage arrived in person, accompanied by Tsunade and Jiraiya. In addition to them, a large number of ninja squads surrounded Denzo's residence like an iron barrel, completely blocking any way out for Denzo. Denzo, what you've done can no longer be hidden. You will be sent to Hidden Leaf Village prison and placed under supervision. Does the third Hokage not want to let Denzo go? He does, but he can't. Otherwise, it would cause great chaos. Compared to the stability of Hidden Leaf Village, the third Hokage would rather personally send Denzo to prison. Being locked in prison is better than being killed outright. What? If it weren't for the fact that it was the third Hokage himself speaking, Denzo would have thought he was joking. Humphrey. Denzo was not buying it and said coldly, Hiruzen, don't come at me with that. You know full well what I've done. If you want to sell me out to stabilize the village and the daimyo, just say so. There's no need for these excuses. Denzo, everything you've done has been exposed. Tsunade had already anticipated this situation. Denzo was not afraid of the third Hokage at all. It makes sense, they are true comrades. Even when Denzo sent people to assassinate the third Hokage acted like nothing happened, showing just how important Denzo is to him. What do you mean? It was one thing for the third Hokage to say this, but even Tsunade stood up, which made it seem like something was off. Sai, the third Hokage, sighed, took out the scroll Tsunade brought back, and threw it over. He hoped Denzo would realize what had happened instead of being taken down without understanding and then sent to prison. The days ahead would be hard, and the Uchiha wouldn't be kind to Denzo. Even if they didn't target or abuse him, they certainly wouldn't make things easy for him. Even though he was surrounded, even though the third Hokage, Tsunade, and Jiraiya were there in person, Denzo still didn't think the village would do anything to him. At most, he thought they'd just put him under house arrest. As for the charges, he didn't care. After all, he had done so many dark deeds that a few more charges wouldn't make a difference. Calmly catching the scroll, Denzo began to read with confidence. This is impossible. Soon, Denzo panicked, his expression changing instantly. He locked his sharp and anxious gaze on the third Hokage and shouted angrily, Hiruzen, did you betray me? The third Hokage sighed and shook his head slightly. He wished he could have buried all of this. How could he dig a hole to bury himself? To bury Denzo. Orochimaru. It must be Orochimaru. Denzo was so furious that he tore the scroll into pieces and roared, why would Orochimaru do this? Doesn't he know how much damage this could do to the village if it gets out? Why did Orochimaru betray me? Why did he push me into the spotlight? Denzo couldn't understand why Orochimaru would do such a thing. When things exploded back then, Orochimaru took the blame. Because he knew that leaving Hidden Leaf Village and becoming a rogue ninja was his only option, and whether or not to drag Denzo down was no longer important. Keeping Denzo around could still bring him some unexpected conveniences or benefits. Denzo. Tsunade scolded him. You knew how much damage these actions could do to the village, and yet you still did them. What do you know? Everything I did was for the village. The hysterical Denzo had lost his usual calmness. At this moment, he was like a mad dog, roaring at Tsunade. And his reason was still the same, everything I did was for the village. Denzo loved to use this line to dismiss people, to persuade others, and coincidentally, the third Hokage did too. Perhaps this was the common ground between them. You two really are in sync, no wonder you grew up together as best friends. Tsunade gritted her teeth and mocked, even the excuses you use are exactly the same. The third Hokage. Everything I did was for the village, it's true, not just an excuse. But no one believed him, especially after the mad dog like Denzo spat out this line. Tsunade and Jiraya's faces were full of disbelief. Denzo, surrender. You can't escape. I can guarantee that the village won't make things difficult for you, and you can peacefully spend your days in prison. The surrounding ninjas continued to close in, leaving Denzo no gap or opportunity to escape. Unless Denzo could turn into Madara Uchiha or Senju Hashirama, he had no hope of escape. Even a monster like the third Raikage could be dragged to death, let alone Denzo, whose strength was nothing special. It could be said that aside from scheming, Denzo's strength was never impressive. Excluding all tricks, he was only slightly stronger than an ordinary Jonin. Now, facing the large number of ninjas surrounding him, along with Tsunade, Jiraiya, the third Hokage, and others, he had no hope of escape. Surrender? Or choose to fight back and seize the chance to flee Hidden Leaf Village? These two choices wrestled in Denzo's mind. Both had pros and cons. If he surrendered, he could be safely imprisoned in Hidden Leaf Village's jail, just locked up. If he had some backup plans, Denzo still had a chance to escape. If he chose to fight, whether or not he could escape was uncertain. Just the act of resisting and attempting to flee the village would increase the security level of his imprisonment by several notches if caught, or he might even die in an accident while fleeing. You will regret this. After weighing the pros and cons, Denzo chose to surrender, his gaze filled with venom as he locked onto the third Hokage. If looks could kill, the third Hokage would have died hundreds of times in that moment. Compared to fighting back for a chance to escape, Denzo preferred to accept being locked up, slowly plotting and using the forces he still had hidden to escape. On the way to Hidden Leaf Village, the group stopped to rest. The Uchiha and the village's ninjas sat on opposite sides of the road, clearly keeping their distance from each other. Until the misunderstanding was resolved, and until the village stopped targeting them, it was nearly impossible for the Uchiha and the village's ninjas to get along. Kazuki didn't expect such a thing to happen. Even if the misunderstanding was resolved, and there was no more targeting, considering the pride of the Uchiha, it would be good enough if they could interact normally with the village's clan ninjas. Expecting them to lower their pride and get along with the civilian ninjas was something that would only happen in dreams. A hawk's cry echoed above. Kazuki looked up at the sky. It's the family's messenger hawk. Chapter 108. Kaz raised his hand to his mouth and blew a special whistle. The nin eagle circling in the sky quickly descended, landing steadily on Kaz's shoulder. Captain, it's from the clan. Kaz untied the mini-encrypted scroll tied to the nin eagle's leg and handed it to Kazuki, then took out some specially made food for the summoned beast and fed it to the nin eagle. The commotion on the Uchiha side caught the attention of many people. Kazuki unraveled the encrypted scroll and spread it open. The scroll was small and contained little information, which could be read in just a few glances. Cough, cough. Suddenly, Kazuki choked and bent over, coughing. Captain, are you okay? The people around immediately became tense. The most impatient, Jiro, even called out to the person sitting nearby, Shizun, hey, short-haired Shizun, come help. I'm not called hey, and I'm not called short-haired Shizun either. Shizun retorted, annoyed by Jiro's strange way of addressing her. I'm fine, just choked. Kazuki waved his hand, stood up straight, and couldn't control the smile spreading across his face. Has Kazuki gone crazy? He seems so happy, he actually choked on his own saliva from excitement. What made you so excited? Curious, Shizun walked over and peeked at the scroll in Kazuki's hand. Clenching his fist, Kazuki destroyed the scroll, choosing to keep it a secret, although it wouldn't be a big deal if it were made public. You'll know when we get back to the village. It's a big event. Successfully arousing everyone's curiosity, Kazuki still didn't tell them what had happened. Watching many people get anxious and fidgety, Kazuki couldn't help but laugh. Denzo really fell, and even the third Hokage got caught up in it. This had been Kazuki's wish ever since he transmigrated, and it had finally come true. Thinking back to the fear and anxiety when he first transmigrated, Kazuki couldn't help but laugh. Tsunade had become the fifth Hokage candidate. As long as they handled the hardliners within the Uchiha well and didn't continue with self-destructive behavior, and then gradually brought Obito out to clear up misunderstandings, the Uchiha could finally walk in the sunlight. Although Tsunade wouldn't deliberately target the Uchiha, the suspicion caused by the Nine-Tails Knight still lingered. Only by bringing Obito out and revealing the truth could the Uchiha be exonerated. Only then would Kazuki's initial plan be considered complete. And the next step? Crazy, really crazy. Kazuki didn't want to say anything, and the others didn't know what was going on. They only saw Kazuki sometimes choke from excitement, sometimes cough, and sometimes laugh uncontrollably, almost making him a candidate for Uchiha's top 4 eccentrics. Everyone couldn't help but wonder if Kazuki had gone mad. Even his clansmen looked at him worriedly. "Captain, are you really okay? If you're not feeling well, get lost, you're the one with a problem." "I'm perfectly fine, very fine. The blade that had been hanging over my neck suddenly disappeared, how could I not feel good?" Although there were still some minor troubles and after effects, compared to those, the blade over my neck was the most terrifying. "Denzo, just wait. I'll personally take care of you." To give an explanation to the villagers and the daimyo, the third Hokage also made a significant concession. Although it was a pity that Denzo couldn't be killed, imprisoning him under Uchiha guard wasn't a bad alternative. Kazuki decided that once they returned to the village, he would ask Fugaku for indefinite leave. He wanted to watch over Denzo every day. To take good care of him. Following closely behind the daimyo's government of the Land of Fire, those interested in buying information basically obtained it from the Bounty Guild and sent it back to their villages. When the information was presented before them, many people were shocked. The reactions to this information varied across different villages. The small ninja villages didn't have much say and didn't dare provoke Hidden Leaf Village lightly, so they could only observe and see how the 4 great ninja villages would respond. Among the 4 great ninja villages excluding Hidden Leaf Village, Hidden Sand Village and Hidden Mist Village had relatively calm reactions. As expected, it's nothing good. After reading the scroll, Yagura casually tossed it aside. Obviously, he didn't care much about it. Compared to Hidden Leaf Village, Hidden Mist Village was the original master of darkness. Compared to what Hidden Mist Village had gone through, Hidden Leaf Village's little experiments were nothing. Yagura wasn't in the mood to deal with it either. After the Third Ninja War, Hidden Mist Village needed time to recover, and even if he wanted to stir up trouble, the village's strength wouldn't allow it. At most, he could send some spies to Hidden Leaf Village to gather information. In Hidden Sand Village, the 4th Kazekage, Raza, had a similar reaction after reading the information. "It seems we need to send someone to attend the 5th Hokage's inauguration ceremony in Hidden Leaf Village." After the Third Ninja War, Hidden Sand Village was the weakest among the 5 great ninja villages. Moreover, with the daimyo constantly dragging his feet, the village was already poor, and Hidden Sand Village had almost been forced to follow the rough path. Raza was busy mining every day to earn money, with no time or energy to worry about Hidden Leaf Village's affairs. Like Yagura, even if he wanted to do something, he lacked the means. Not to mention, after the Third Ninja War, Hidden Leaf Village and Hidden Sand Village had signed an alliance treaty. If he tried to cause trouble now, it would only bring criticism to Hidden Sand Village. Compared to Yagura, Raza had a longer view. He didn't think the Third Hokage could get through this unscathed, and he expected to soon receive news of the Third Hokage retiring and stepping down again. As for wood style, Raza was envious, but the same old problem remained: Hidden Sand Village was too weak to do anything about it. Trying to make a move on wood style would be pure fantasy, especially considering Hidden Sand Village's lack of resources and manpower. In contrast to the quiet Hidden Sand Village and Hidden Mist Village, the reactions in Hidden Clouds Village and Hidden Stones Village were the complete opposite. The military strength of both Hidden Clouds Village and Hidden Stones Village was not inferior to Hidden Leaf Villages. In fact, it was even stronger. Especially Hidden Clouds Village, which hadn't participated in the Third Ninja War and had developed its strength while other villages were at war, had already become the strongest of the 5 great ninja villages on the surface. Although Hidden Stones Village had fought Hidden Leaf Village to a stalemate during the Third Ninja War, its losses were not as severe as Hidden Leaf Villages. In fact, during the Third Ninja War, if the Third Raikage hadn't died in the Land of Earth, causing Hidden Clouds Village to eye Hidden Stones Village covetously and forcing Onoki to retreat, the war between Hidden Leaf Village and Hidden Stones Village might have dragged on much longer, with the outcome still uncertain. On the surface, it seemed Hidden Leaf Village won, but did Hidden Leaf Village really win? Aside from proclaiming their victory, they didn't gain any benefits. Dreaming of war reparations was just that. A dream. After the war, Hidden Stones Village completely ignored Hidden Leaf Village, and both the Third Hokage and Minato knew that Hidden Stones Village would never admit to being defeated. As a result, no one ever brought up the issue of war reparations between the two villages. Hidden Stones Village had always kept a close watch on Hidden Leaf Village and the Land of Fire, and Hidden Clouds Village even more so, practically wearing their desire to attack the Land of Fire on their sleeves. What do you think is the credibility of this information? In the Sushi Kage's office, Hidden Stones Village's top officials had gathered, even the daimyo of the Land of Earth was present. Chapter 109, Compared to other villages, Hidden Stones Village and Hidden Clouds Village are exceptions. The daimyo is not only united with the village but also permanently stationed there, participating in the village's decision-making processes. The credibility should be quite high. The daimyo of the Land of Earth said with a mocking smile, according to the information passed on by those who stayed behind. After meeting with the daimyo of the Land of Fire, Tsunoda and Kazuki Uchiha left the daimyo's residence and returned to Hidden Leaf Village on the same day. More than the credibility of the information, I'm more curious about who sold it. Has Hidden Leaf Village truly replicated a wood-style ninja? Makes sense. Onoki slightly nodded, pondering for a moment, then said, the information on the Sanbu ninja named Tenzo is very detailed, so it's unlikely to be fake. Hidden Leaf Village succeeded, but only Hidden Leaf Village knows how likely that success is. I suggest the village send people to infiltrate Hidden Leaf Village and investigate, gathering the corresponding intelligence. I agree as well. Most of the high-ranking officials agreed to send more spies to gather intelligence, and Onoki had the same thought. In addition to gathering intelligence, I believe we should openly criticize Hidden Leaf Village. We must put enough pressure on them. Conducting human experiments is a surface-level agreement among the 5 great shinobi villages. Whether or not they conduct human experiments in secret depends on the village's ability to keep it confidential. Since Hidden Leaf Village's activities have been exposed, they can't blame us for criticizing them. Take the opportunity to tarnish Hidden Leaf Village's reputation. Send people to infiltrate Hidden Leaf Village, gather intelligence, and if possible, capture this guy named Tenzo. Compared to Hidden Stones Village's subtlety, Hidden Clouds Village is much more domineering. The 4th Raikage, with his notoriously fiery temper, doesn't know the meaning of subtlety or restraint. Since Hidden Clouds Village wants this information, they'll go to spy, steal, or rob for it. We need the intelligence, and we need the person too. This kind of thing is nothing new for Hidden Clouds Village. Hidden Clouds Village has kidnapped Hidden Leaf Village ninjas quite a few times. Hyuga, Uchiha, and even Uzumaki Kashina have been targeted. Hidden Clouds Village is neither short on money nor resources. They have plenty of ways to bribe some Hidden Leaf Village ninjas to act as inside agents and allow their ninjas to infiltrate Hidden Leaf Village. This kind of thing is very familiar to Hidden Clouds Village. In the past, they boldly entered Hidden Leaf Village, knocked out Kashina, and then smoothly left Hidden Leaf Village. If not for plot armor, Kashina would likely have been locked up in Hidden Clouds Village long ago instead of being rescued by Minato alone. Speaking of which, it's amusing that Hidden Clouds Village could swagger into Hidden Leaf Village, successfully kidnap Kashina, only for the ninja who captured her to not be a match for Minato. How strong was Minato back then? It can only be said that the plot needed to progress, so the enemies had to lower their intelligence. For such an important mission, it's not unreasonable to send at least a team of elite Jonin, led by one. Yet, they were taken down by a young Minato, who succeeded in winning the beauty's heart. Additionally, send people to help spread the news in Hidden Leaf Village, and the village should publicly criticize Hidden Leaf Village, tarnishing their reputation as much as possible. Just helping to spread rumors and news can tarnish a competitor's reputation. Such a good opportunity is hard to come by. We must seize it. When Kazuki returned to Hidden Leaf Village, he found that the village's security had been upgraded several levels, with even the entrance having 2 extra Anbu squads on guard. It seems Tsunoda and the 3rd Hokage made a lot of preparations. Successfully returning to Hidden Leaf Village, the team disbanded, and Kazuki took his clansmen back to their territory to meet with Fugaku. In the clan leader's study, Fugaku looked at Kazuki, who was sitting across from him, leisurely drinking tea, with a complex expression in his eyes. I have to admit, you're brave. You'll use any means to achieve your goals, and I foolishly helped you send out that information. Everything I do is for the clan and the village. Kazuki directly borrowed the 3rd Hokage and Denzo's catchphrase. Kazuki claimed he had a clear conscience. Fugaku couldn't find fault with that, and after a long silence, he took out a scroll and placed it on the table. This is the reward for selling the information. I hope you remember what you said today. Don't disappoint me. The clan is important, but if something happens to Hidden Leaf Village, it won't benefit the clan much either. Fugaku subtly reminded Kazuki that he didn't know how Kazuki obtained this information, but he hoped this kind of thing wouldn't happen a 3rd time. Considering the recent sale of information, Fugaku was sure that the previous leak of Root's information was also Kazuki's doing. Uchiha took a few days off, definitely Kazuki's handiwork. Now that money is rolling in, there must be a lot of small fortunes. Kazuki picked up the scroll, stored it, and assured, "My goal is to remove the sword hanging over our heads, not to disrupt the village's order and drag it into war." Although the wood style is attractive, the other villages aren't fools. They won't attack Hidden Leaf Village just because of this information. Fugaku was worried that if the situation escalated, Hidden Leaf Village might be dragged into another war. Kazuki reassured him. In today's shinobi world, everyone is busy recuperating. After all, it's only been 5 years since the Third Shinobi War ended. Among the 5 great shinobi villages, only Hidden Stones Village and Hidden Clouds Village could still start a war. As long as Anoki and they have any sense, they wouldn't recklessly start a war over this information. Let's hope so. Fugaku frowned and reminded Kazuki. Some people in the clan are getting restless. Prepare in advance. I hope this month's clan meeting will go smoothly. It can't be delayed. It wasn't easy to bring down Denzo, and if nothing unexpected happens, the third Hokage will also step down. If the hardliners start causing trouble at this time, it could make the already precarious situation even more dangerous and complicated. No problem. Patting his chest, Kazuki stood up and left. Even without Fugaku's reminder, he would have started preparing. The hardliners can no longer be tolerated, this faction must be disbanded. Reorganizing the police force is the first step. Next comes the main event. If all goes well, when Tsunade becomes the 5th Hokage, as long as the Uchiha don't continue to court death, even if the misunderstandings aren't resolved, relations won't continue to freeze. The temperature will gradually rise. I'm back. As he reached the door, a crisp cheer rang out, and a small figure bumped into Kazuki's arms, letting out a cry as they fell to the ground. Kazuki, who was just thinking about something, was a bit distracted. He didn't expect anyone to be rushing around in the clan leader's courtyard and ended up bumping into Sasuke. Ouch, that hurt. Sitting on the ground, Sasuke, whose clothes were now covered in dust, winced and rubbed his butt. His handsome little face scrunched up as he looked up at the person who had knocked him down. Senior. When Sasuke saw Kazuki's face, he ignored the pain in his butt and quickly got up, bowing respectfully. Chapter 110, both Fugaku and Itachi warned Sasuke that Kazuki was different from the other clan members. They told him to be respectful and polite when he encountered Kazuki, and not to act recklessly. Next time, be more careful. Don't rush around. Was I distracted? No way, it was clearly Sasuke who was too excited about coming home and ran too fast, which is why he bumped into me. Fine, we both share some of the blame. Half and half. Yes. Sasuke responded, feeling a bit dissatisfied but not daring to argue. He puffed up his cheeks. I have to admit, Sasuke was really cute when he was younger. Kazuki couldn't help but pinch his puffed-up cheeks and gave them a gentle tug. Hearing Sasuke's cry of pain, Kazuki laughed and decided to use today's copying ability on Sasuke. Copy successful. Acquired part of Indra's chakra. Do you want to fuse it? Merge. Kazuki instinctively responded in his mind, feeling even more cheerful. The rewards really depend on Sasuke and Naruto. Once again, it's a critical hit reward. That senior is so mean, pinching my cheeks like that. Sasuke pouted and backed away, glaring at Kazuki with displeasure while keeping his guard up, afraid that Kazuki might try to pinch his cheeks again. Boom. After absorbing and fusing today's critical hit reward, Kazuki felt as if his brain exploded. It was as if something crawled out from his brain and covered his eyes. His mind felt like it was struck by a heavy hammer. Senior. Sasuke was startled when he saw Kazuki suddenly groan in pain, his straight back bending over, his face showing signs of distress. Kazuki raised his right hand to cover his eyes, and blood began seeping through his fingers. Sasuke was frightened by the scene and let down his guard against Kazuki. Kazuki's chakra surged uncontrollably, and his mental power kept growing stronger and stronger. Kazuki's consciousness entered a dark space, where a giant figure, engulfed in golden flames, stood. Senior. Are you okay? Don't scare me. I'll be more careful when walking next time, I promise. Seeing the blood on Kazuki's face and hand increasing, veins bulging on his hand and neck, making him look quite frightening, Sasuke stammered, his voice trembling with fear. Hearing the commotion outside, Fugaku frowned and walked out. Then he saw his youngest son crying out in panic, while Kazuki, leaning against the door frame, was clutching his eye, his hand and face stained with blood, looking pained. Clan leader. The guards at the door rushed in, shocked by Kazuki's condition, and stopped in their tracks, unsure of what to do. Is this Susanoo? Golden, with flames? The Sharingan is the eye that reflects the soul. Each Uchiha's Susanoo has a different color depending on their Mangekyo Sharingan, as does their Mangekyo's abilities. Susanoo? Could it be? Kazuki realized something. Earlier, after bumping into Sasuke, he was in a great mood and teased Sasuke. He then used today's copying ability on him. After receiving a critical hit reward, he chose to fuse it, which led to this discomfort. Immediately after, his consciousness entered this strange space where he saw a golden Susanoo. After all the waiting and accumulation, his Sharingan had finally reached a critical moment. Kazuki's 3 Tomoe Sharingan had evolved, taking a significant step forward. Kazuki's hand covered his eye, and no one could see the 3 Tomoe in his eyes spinning rapidly, drawing closer to the black center, straightening, and elongating. The intense chakra and mental power fluctuations could be due to stepping forward or because of the cursed bloodline. Even Fugaku couldn't be sure which situation Kazuki was experiencing. "Kazuki, relax. I'll have someone take you to the hospital," Fugaku said, his words reaching Kazuki's ears. Kazuki's consciousness left the space where Susanoo resided and returned to his body. "I'm fine. My eyes are just a bit uncomfortable, an old issue. I just need to rest a bit," Kazuki said, standing up straight and waving his left hand, which was holding onto the door frame, before walking outside. "Is that so?" Fugaku asked, watching Kazuki's retreating figure with suspicion. He then instructed the guards. "Follow Kazuki until he returns home, then come back. Also, notify Izumi Uchiha to go and take care of Kazuki." "Yes, clan leader." The 2 guards immediately followed. If it weren't for their duty, they would have followed Kazuki sooner. After all, Kazuki's condition seemed rather worrying, and they couldn't help but feel concerned. "Father, is the senior going to be okay? Is the cursed bloodline disease really that terrifying?" Sasuke, still in shock, asked, recalling the rumors in the village and clan about Kazuki suffering from the cursed bloodline disease, making Sasuke think that Kazuki's condition was due to it flaring up. "Yes, it's very frightening," Fugaku said, patting his son's shoulder to comfort him. Could Kazuki's condition be used for some strategic planning? Something that could benefit their upcoming actions. The 2 guards followed Kazuki all the way home, and after confirming that Kazuki had returned safely, they left. They then made a detour to the police force to inform Izumi before returning to the clan leader's residence. "You two, go out and tell the clan members that Kazuki's cursed bloodline disease has worsened, and instruct them not to disturb him while he's resting." "Huh?" The 2 guards were confused. Shouldn't they keep such news hidden instead of spreading it? Although they didn't understand why the clan leader gave such an order, they obediently carried it out. Perhaps the clan leader genuinely didn't want the clan members to disturb Kazuki's rest. With Fugaku's intentional assistance, news of Kazuki's worsening cursed bloodline disease began spreading throughout the clan. Ha ha ha. Back at home, Kazuki couldn't help but laugh. He couldn't suppress his emotions as he looked at his eyes in the mirror. The anxiety that had been weighing on him almost entirely dissipated. He used to worry about the village being against him, worry about the clan turning on him, and even fear that Shizue might foolishly use Koto Matsukami on him. Now, that heavy burden had been lifted entirely. The downfall of the 3rd Hokage and Denzo meant that the Uchiha clan would no longer continue to edge closer to danger. The evolution of his Sharingan into the Mangekyo Sharingan meant a significant increase in his personal power, and he no longer needed to fear being plotted against or attacked. Having the Mangekyo Sharingan represented breaking free from all restraints. After a while, Kazuki managed to control his emotions, looking at himself in the mirror. He tilted his head slightly and murmured. "Luckily, it's not curved, otherwise, how would I be any different from Itachi?" Kazuki's Mangekyo Sharingan closely resembled Itachi's, except that while Itachi's 3 Tomoe converged towards the black center and curved, Kazuki's Tomoe were straight, just like the 3 right angles in Sasuke's eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. The shape formed 3 sharp triangles, pieced together. 3 right angles, not too bad, Kazuki said. He didn't care much about the shape of his Mangekyo Sharingan, as long as its abilities were strong enough. Chapter 111. Aside from that, one thing Kazuki wasn't too satisfied with was that his eyes seemed to be just normal Mangekyo Sharingan, not the eternal Mangekyo. Like Indra, Kazuki had once fantasized about jumping straight from 3 Tomoe Sharingan to the eternal Mangekyo. Unfortunately, that fantasy didn't become a reality. So the question is, where is the change after absorbing so much of Indra's and Azura's chakra? It seems that he will have to uncover it bit by bit himself. Bang! Before Kazuki could think more about it, the door was violently kicked open. Izumi rushed in, not even bothering to take off her shoes. She had been at work in the police department when she received a message from the clan leader's guards, informing her that Kazuki's condition had worsened. His face was covered in blood, which looked like his bloodline disease had gotten worse. Terrified, Izumi had dashed over still in her uniform. "Captain." The moment she entered, Izumi anxiously called out. Kazuki opened the bathroom door and walked out, drying his wet hair with a towel, and joked, "Are you planning to help me replace the door? You opened it so forcefully." Izumi didn't pay attention to his teasing. She rushed over, circling around Kazuki twice, then looked at the clothes on the bathroom floor. The clothes were stained with a lot of blood, and the smell was strong. The clan leader's guards hadn't lied to her. But Kazuki didn't seem to be in a serious condition. He even had the energy to joke with her. "Captain, your eyes." Izumi initially wanted to ask about his bloodline disease, but she quickly changed her words, gesturing with her hands as she spoke. "What is this girl doing?" Kazuki's mouth twitched, and he placed his hand on her head, comforting her. All right, don't worry. I'm fine. It's just that my eyes suddenly felt a bit uncomfortable. It's not the first time this has happened. I'm really fine, and I don't have the bloodline disease." "Really?" Izumi jumped up in surprise, but soon the smile on her face faded. But the clan leader. They were just talking nonsense. Rolling his eyes, Kazuki continued drying his hair as he walked upstairs. "Help me clean up the clothes in the bathroom. Just throw them away, they're covered in blood and won't wash out. Also, get ready. I'm going to visit Aunt Hazuki later." "But," Izumi said worriedly. "Is it really okay?" As she watched Kazuki disappear up the stairs, Izumi could only whisper to herself. After spending so much time with him, she knew Kazuki's personality very well. If he said he was fine, pressing him too much would definitely earn her a scolding. "Captain, I'm just worried about you." Izumi pouted, stomping her foot in frustration. "Wait." At that moment, something occurred to Izumi, and her expression changed. Did the captain just say, "He's going to visit my house"? Izumi had always looked forward to the day when Kazuki would visit her home. But now that he was really planning to come over, she panicked. What if the house was messy? What if her mother wasn't prepared? What should she do? "Captain, I'm going home to prepare." Shouting towards the stairs, Izumi hurriedly ran off. What's that silly girl up to? Kazuki, who was changing clothes, glanced out the window at the street. He saw Izumi running off as if a wild beast were chasing her. After changing clothes, Kazuki grabbed the gifts he had bought in the daimyo's residence and left his home. "Mom, hurry and get ready." Izumi burst through the door, holding her forehead. Kazuki, who had been resting at home, was startled. "I don't recall teaching you to use your head to open doors." Seeing her daughter's red forehead, Hazuki put her hands on her hips and scolded, "How old are you? Why are you still so flustered? Wait, aren't you supposed to be at work? I'll be more careful next time." Izumi laughed sheepishly and quickly rubbed her forehead. She had run so fast that she couldn't stop in time and ended up hitting the door with her head. "You!" Hazuki raised her hand to rub her daughter's forehead. Feeling her mother's concern and love, Izumi smiled foolishly. But as she kept smiling, her smile suddenly froze. She grabbed her mother's hand and urgently said, "Mom, this isn't the time to talk about that. We need to get ready. The captain is coming over to visit, and he'll be here soon." "Is that so?" Hazuki's eyes lit up as she clapped her hands. "I went grocery shopping this morning. I'll start preparing right away. You tidy up the house, especially your room. Don't let Kazuki see anything embarrassing, okay?" Hearing that Kazuki was coming to visit, Hazuki got nervous too. She quickly went into the kitchen to start preparing dinner and instructed Izumi to clean up the house to welcome their guest. When Kazuki arrived, he was warmly greeted by Izumi and her mother. "Aunt Hazuki, here are some gifts I bought at the daimyo's residence." "You silly child, you should have come to see Auntie sooner. Why bring gifts? There's no need for that." Izumi's mother was overly enthusiastic, making Kazuki feel a bit uncomfortable. Kazuki's mother had been close with Hazuki, but after being reincarnated, Kazuki's mind had been occupied with figuring out how to survive, establish himself in Hidden Leaf Village, and gain strength and status. He hadn't had the time or energy to think about visiting relatives. Visiting family was a distant thought for him. Now that he had dealt with the most pressing matters and promised Izumi he would visit, he didn't want to break his promise. Plus, since he had already bought the gifts, he decided to visit her. Oddly, Izumi seemed more nervous than Kazuki, giving him the feeling of a girl bringing her boyfriend home to meet her parents, worried about what they might think or whether they would approve. Is it just my imagination? Maybe. Kazuki blinked and glanced at Izumi, who was sitting beside him, grinning foolishly. He didn't think too much of it and continued chatting with Hazuki. The awkward part was that the conversation kept revolving around his parents, who had died in the line of duty, making Kazuki a bit lost for words. Damn it, the feeling of a son-in-law visiting and listening to his mother-in-law's concerns was growing stronger. Sensing that the atmosphere was getting a bit odd, Kazuki couldn't sit still any longer and found an excuse to leave. "Mom, you were too enthusiastic. You scared the captain away." After Kazuki left, Izumi complained to her mother. Who pulls someone aside for so much small talk and endless questions on their first visit? "What's wrong?" Hazuki poked her daughter's forehead with a slender finger. What's wrong with a mother showing concern for her friend's child? What's wrong with being enthusiastic? If it weren't for you. Mom. Izumi's face turned red as she hugged her head and shouted. What do you mean for me? I'm not talking to you anymore. You silly girl. Watching her daughter run into her room, Hazuki couldn't help but laugh. Silly child, some things need to be grasped early. That was true, but Hazuki suddenly remembered that recently there had been rumors in the clan about Kazuki being close with Tsunoda's disciple, Shizune, which made her a bit worried. Chapter 112, her daughter didn't even dare express her feelings. Could she really compete with Lady Tsunoda's disciple? It seemed rather unlikely. Oh well, let the children handle their own matters. Shaking her head, Hazuki decided not to worry about it anymore. This time, she had indeed been a little too enthusiastic. While she was concerned about Kazuki, she mainly wanted to wake up both her daughter and Kazuki. In the end, her daughter just stood there foolishly, smiling awkwardly, and scared Kazuki away instead. The atmosphere in the village visibly started to change. Aside from the increased presence of the Anbu, many ninja squads also returned to the village, joining the patrols and security forces. Rumors about the wood style and human experimentation began spreading from the daimyo's residence. The news reached Hidden Leaf Village, but the third Hokage did not send anyone to intercept it. He had already prepared for the worst. Kazuki sat quietly at the police department, eating melon and watching the drama unfold, allowing the situation to escalate. He was also ready to attend the clan meeting and receive Denzo. Denzo had already been imprisoned and was receiving special treatment. Once the Anbu and the prison guards had arranged everything, the Uchiha clan members would be able to enter the prison and guard Denzo personally. To put pressure on Hidden Leaf Village, the daimyo even sent an envoy to the village to inquire about the matter. More and more people in the village began discussing the incident. Everything was ready, just waiting for the situation to ferment over time. After work, Kazuki went home to wash up, changed into clean clothes, and brought Izumi with him to attend the clan meeting. This was Izumi's first time attending a clan meeting. The little girl was very nervous, carefully following behind Kazuki. On the way, every clan member they encountered on the way to the family shrine would stop and greet them. To make a statement, Fugaku had even allowed the clan's Chunin to attend this month's meeting. Fugaku knew well that the younger generation of the clan almost universally admired Kazuki and looked up to him. With the participation of these younger clan members and Kazuki leading the way, they could surely force the hardliners to bow their heads. Don't underestimate these young ninjas. If the young ninjas do not support you or even feel that you are unwilling to sacrifice for the clan and are merely holding on to your power, your reputation within the clan will surely plummet. Since it was Izumi's first time attending the clan meeting, Kazuki brought her along to prevent her from making a fool of herself due to nervousness or getting scolded. Don't be nervous. Just act naturally. Although it's your first time attending a clan meeting and you and Aunt Hazuki are outsiders, as long as you don't make any mistakes, no one will bother you. On the way, Kazuki comforted the anxious Izumi. Besides, even if you make a mistake, what could happen? Don't forget, you are with me now. Whoever dares to trouble you will be going against me, Kazuki. Even the clan elders have to think twice. Is the captain really that powerful? After Kazuki's reassurance, Izumi slowly relaxed and followed behind him with a look of admiration. However, since her body hadn't fully grown yet, her strides couldn't keep up with Kazuki's. Walking normally, she was too slow, but running was too fast. She had to take one step and then hop a bit to keep up, looking like a little bunny, bouncing along. Nonsense. Why else do you think people on the way warmly responded when you greeted them? As a newcomer and junior, Izumi had been respectfully greeting the elders heading to the shrine, and without exception, all of them had smiled and responded warmly. Some even stopped to chat for a moment. This gave Izumi the impression that the clan elders seemed quite easy to get along with. But in reality, easy to get along with? Not a chance. Even within the clan, if you don't have enough strength or the ability to intimidate, gaining everyone's recognition and respect is incredibly difficult. Among ordinary people, it might be easier, but among Uchiha ninjas, the stronger they are, the more they tend to keep a cold, stern expression. I thought everyone had become easy to get along with. Izumi smiled awkwardly, staying close behind Kazuki, fearing he might leave her behind. At the clan shrine, Fugaku had not yet arrived, but the guards from the clan leader's compound were already stationed there. When they saw Kazuki arrive, the guards nodded slightly in greeting, and Kazuki nodded back, leading Izumi into the shrine. Since more people were attending this meeting and there would be no discussion about village matters, there wasn't a need for strict confidentiality. The location of the meeting had been moved from the secret chamber to the main hall of the shrine. Kazuki. Kazuki, you're here. Upon Kazuki's arrival, many clan members stood up to greet him. Kazuki smiled and greeted them back, even introducing the little girl behind him. This is Izumi Uchiha, my assistant. It's her first time attending the clan meeting, so she's a bit nervous. Everyone, take it easy, don't scare the kid. Ha ha ha. At this, everyone burst into laughter. Izumi was so embarrassed that she clenched her small fists, her face turning red as she bowed her head like an ostrich. A few of the older jonin from the clan jokingly added, being shy won't do. Since you're one of Kazuki's people, you have to learn from him. Back when Kazuki first attended the clan meeting, he completely ignored us old geezers. You guys are something else. Even bringing up my own embarrassing history. Kazuki smiled wryly, leading Izumi to sit down at the front. Jiro gave a sly grin, pushing the people beside him to make space for Izumi. Izumi ended up being the only chunin sitting among a group of jonin and special jonin. This made the other chunin sitting in the back quite envious. But too bad for them, Izumi had Kazuki to back her up, so she could sit at the front, but they couldn't. Even the clan elders wouldn't let them sit at the front. As for Izumi, well, they were just giving Kazuki some face. Izumi obediently hid behind Kazuki, not daring to poke her head out. As time passed, more and more clan members arrived. The clan elders also arrived, but the hardliner elders had already realized that Fugaku was going to make a move at the meeting, and they looked worried. Especially when they sat down and saw Kazuki not far away, their hearts sank. It was one thing for Fugaku to make a move, but what they really feared was Kazuki causing trouble. If Kazuki got upset, he wouldn't care about clan rules. And with rumors that his bloodline disease had worsened, the elders were even more afraid that Kazuki would act more recklessly. If I'm already dying, why should I care about clan rules? If I don't like something, I'll deal with it. If I don't like someone, I'll go after them. After all, I won't live long anyway. Not long after the elders arrived, Fugaku entered, bringing Itachi, who was eligible to attend the meeting. However, Itachi didn't sit in the front. He obediently sat with the chunin at the back of the room. Sitting in the clan leader's seat, Fugaku glanced at Izumi, who was hiding behind Kazuki. He didn't say anything and calmly announced, "Let this month's clan meeting begin." With Fugaku's words, it was now time for anyone with important matters to bring them up for discussion. Clan leader. Kazuki was the first to raise his hand and stand up. This guy better not be up to something. Seeing Kazuki stand up, the hardliner elders twitched, and the clan members were surprised, thinking, is Kazuki really this eager? The meeting has just started. Chapter 113, Speak. Fugaku pretended not to know and looked over. With Fugaku's permission, Kazuki, expressionless, looked at the elders of the hardline faction and walked forward a few steps. Kazuki, what are you trying to do? Kazuki immediately stood up, still staring at them without expression, even walking towards them. The elders began to feel uneasy. They definitely didn't want to be sent to the hospital by one of Kazuki's Ganjutsu. In the family, Kazuki and Shishui's Ganjutsu were famous for being strong, and these elderly men couldn't withstand it. They hadn't forgotten the fate of the pacifist elder. That poor guy had not only become the family's scapegoat but also a laughingstock, losing his position as an elder and hiding at home in shame. Seeing Kazuki walking forward expressionless, they began to panic. There was drama to be seen. Many of the clansmen, noticing this, revealed looks of excitement, while the hardliners didn't look too pleased. Kazuki's attitude was clearly putting pressure on the hardline faction and stirring up trouble. Stopping in his tracks, Kazuki coldly scanned the faces of the elders before him. I'd like to ask the elders, why do you so desperately oppose the clan leader's proposal to reorganize the police force? Don't you realize that reorganizing the police force is beneficial for both the police and the clan? Kazuki raised his voice, pointing at them angrily and said, I, Kazuki Uchiha, even while sick, have been running around for the sake of our clan. I've been working hard to ease the tension between the clan and the village. Begging everyone for ways to ensure the clan's safety and help it integrate better into the village. But what about you? Just for a bit of power, you oppose the clan and the police reform at all costs. What exactly are your motives? Kazuki seized the initiative, delivering a sharp rebuke to the elders. Is that true? How come I've never heard of this? You don't know a thing. This must be something under negotiation. They'd wait to announce it after an agreement is reached, but I never expected the elders to oppose it for their own power and interests. Sigh. This is outrageous, absolutely outrageous. Clansmen who were unaware of the situation began murmuring among themselves after hearing Kazuki. Some of the younger shinobi, attending a clan meeting for the first time, started to look at the elders with unfriendly eyes. This was exactly the result Fugaku wanted, to use the younger generation to build momentum. You, utter nonsense. The head elder was furious, nearly spitting blood. Kazuki's accusation was like a heavy blow, almost crushing them. Although they opposed the reorganization of the police force, It wasn't as serious as Kazuki made it seem. At least they wouldn't bring up these power struggles openly. But Kazuki didn't care about any of that. I have no interest in fighting for the clan's power, so I don't need to care about your dignity or follow any rules. I'll just flip the table and see how you deal with it. Nonsense? Kazuki sneered and asked, does the head elder dare to swear on the clan's honor that you did not oppose the clan leader's proposal? That you did not oppose the police force's reorganization? Do you dare? The head elder was panicking, truly panicking. Kazuki had deliberately set him up. If he dared to say he didn't, Fugaku could step forward and accuse him of lying, and others could do the same. But if he admitted it, then he'd be guilty of opposing the police reform and clan changes. No matter what, there was no good choice. Both options were problematic, especially since it was a fact that the hardliners had opposed it. As the hardline elders began to panic, more and more clansmen grew dissatisfied with them. Fugaku, seeing that the situation was about right, finally spoke up. Kazuki, no need to rush. I believe the elders also have the clan's best interests in mind and are worried that too rapid of a reorganization might have negative consequences for both the clan and the police force. Yes, exactly. That's what I meant. The head elder, who was nearly frantic, immediately jumped at the opportunity to climb down. As long as it didn't go further. Fugaku pulled out a report from the police force. This is a report I prepared for the police captains. Regarding the reorganization, I personally consulted with them. Why didn't I know? The head elder was momentarily stunned, instinctively looking at the hardliners in the police force. Noticing his angry glare, a few of them quickly lowered their heads. When Fugaku had approached them, they had not dared to make any promises, only assuring that they wouldn't leak anything to their superiors. Who could have anticipated that the clan leader would pull the rug out from under them, announcing the decision outright instead of negotiating? And with Kazuki's aggressive approach, the hardline elders were thrown into a tough spot. There are indeed some gaps in the positions within the police force, leading to situations where important cases arise but there's no higher authority to report to. Therefore, this reorganization will involve the consolidation of police squads and the addition of 3 mid-level captains. In the future, if I'm not present at the police force or can't be found, people can report directly to the mid-level captains, who will manage and deploy the squads. These 3 mid-level captains will answer directly to me. This had long been a problem within the police force. Aside from Fugaku, the police captains often had no one to turn to when they couldn't find him, leaving them stuck. Moreover, with everyone on equal footing, no one could give orders to another. With this reorganization, the police force would function more like the ANBU, where mid-level captains oversee teams, and the captains answer directly to the minister, perfectly resolving the issue of command and reporting. Adding 3 mid-level captains to oversee squads would make the police force much more efficient. Although Kazuki didn't particularly like Fugaku as a person, he had to admit Fugaku's abilities when it came to reorganizing the police force. From now on, the police force will no longer suffer from issues caused by my absence. In case of an emergency, the 3 mid-level captains will be able to handle things until I arrive. Fugaku explained the entire plan for the police force's reorganization. Cough, the clan leader is right. Reorganizing the police force is indeed beneficial for both the force and the clan. I was only concerned that the clan leader might act rashly and create chaos within the police force, which is why I initially opposed it. Wiping the sweat from his brow, the head elder hurriedly expressed his support. At the same time, he shot Fugaku a glance, indicating that they had no objections and that the clan leader should stop now. However, they still wanted one of the mid-level captain positions. Agreeing so easily? I've been talking for so long, and you didn't listen, refusing no matter what. But as soon as Kazuki stepped in, hit you with a moral argument, and applied some pressure, you caved? Fugaku clearly understood Kazuki's methods, but while Kazuki could pull this off, he couldn't. If he did, it would be seen as breaking the rules. Plus, with Kazuki's illness being widely known, his high ground allowed him to criticize the elder while gaining sympathy and support from the clansmen. If Fugaku did the same, it would only embarrass him. A dignified Uchiha clan leader, arguing with the elders like a common brawler, turning a clan meeting into a marketplace scene? It seems there's been a misunderstanding among the elders. If no one else objects, we'll finalize the reorganization plan for the police force and begin the reform tomorrow. Chapter 114, Fugaku didn't push the hardliners too hard. Since even the elder had compromised, he wasn't going to press the issue either. Just go with the flow. As for the problem with the hardliners, it wasn't something that could be solved in a day. It would take time and gradual effort. Great. We all support you. Under Kazuki's signal, the squad members raised their hands and cheered loudly. Seeing Jiro and the others raise the signal, many clan members instinctively followed suit, raising their hands and shouting along. Thus, More and more people joined in. The matter of reorganizing the police department was settled, and no one dared to raise objections, fearing Kazuki would launch another verbal barrage. Standing in a position of power and firing shots at others, Kazuki had to admit, it felt pretty good. Unfortunately, it couldn't always be like this. Returning to his seat, Kazuki noticed Azumi staring at him with excitement, her beautiful eyes sparkling with admiration. What followed was mere trivialities. Kazuki hardly spoke, simply resting in his seat. After hours of back-and-forth debate, Fugaku was parched. Alright, today's clan meeting will end here. I will now select 3 outstanding members of our clan to serve as squad leaders. At this, many clan members glanced over at Kazuki. In their eyes, Kazuki was certainly qualified for the position. Fugaku did not disappoint the clan members. First squad, Captain Kazuki Uchiha. I hope you won't let me, the clan, or the village down. That's great. Many cheered. Amidst the cheers, Kazuki stood up and forcefully pounded his chest. Since the clan leader values me so highly, I, Kazuki Uchiha, will uphold the clan's honor and take responsibility for this role. I will not disappoint the clan or the village. You've said enough. Always talking about the clan's honor and pride, making it seem like us higher-ups don't care about it. A large number of clan members cheered in support of Kazuki, giving Fugaku a headache. He even wondered, what if one day Kazuki becomes too powerful, leading people to the clan leader's residence to make him step down? What would he do then? Step down or not? Alright, quiet down. What kind of behavior is this, making such a racket? Fugaku sternly reprimanded the crowd, calming them down before continuing with the appointments. Second squad, Captain Endo Uchiha. I will do my best and will not disappoint the clan or the village. Unlike Kazuki, Endo remained calm. He had expected to be chosen and was mentally prepared. Additionally, he was a supporter of the clan leader and a neutral representative, making it hard not to be selected. 2 of the 3 squad leader positions were now filled, leaving 1 vacancy. Fugaku's gaze lingered on a few notable figures among the hardliners, hesitating over who to choose. In theory, any of them could serve as squad leader, given their strength and loyalty to the clan. Is it that hard to choose? After a long silence, Kazuki, feeling impatient, muttered under his breath. You. Fugaku frowned and shot a glare at Kazuki, but unfortunately, Kazuki wasn't looking, leaving Fugaku feeling a bit frustrated. Wait a minute. Kazuki wasn't the type to act without reason. Why would he rush things at this moment? If not, his impatience must have had a purpose. Fugaku followed Kazuki's gaze. Then, for the 3rd squad, the captain will be Shimeki Uchiha. Me? In the crowd, Shimeki Uchiha, who had been keeping a low profile, was startled and looked up in surprise. He didn't think he was the one to be chosen. Although he was part of the hardliners, he wasn't a prominent figure among them. Shimeki? Fugaku's choice shocked everyone, even the elder. Though Shimeki Uchiha was one of them, his presence was so minimal that even the elders were surprised. Does the elder think he's unfit? Fugaku asked. I have no such thoughts. Since the clan leader believes Shimeki is suitable for the role, then Shimeki it is. Although they weren't sure what Fugaku's intentions were, since Shimeki was one of their own, even if not the best choice, it was better than selecting an outsider. With the squad leader positions settled, the clan meeting came to an end. After Fugaku announced the end of the meeting, the clan members dispersed. Kazuki took Izumi home first, then wandered through the village, eventually stopping at a kairaku ramen. The usual please, but add 2 more bowls today. Kazuki raised his hand and gestured to Taki. One moment. Taki quickly prepared the ramen and placed it on the table, kindly reminding Kazuki, if the noodles sit too long, they'll clump up and ruin the taste. They won't. Kazuki smiled. A friend is on the way, but we need to borrow your place to chat. Seems like business is slow today. Hey. Taki laughed. Just say my business is bad if you want. Fine, there aren't many customers today anyway. I'll close up early and go home to rest. Remember to lock up. Since they only needed the place to chat, Taki quickly agreed, even though it wasn't closing time yet. Taki was a good-natured person, so he reluctantly agreed to Kazuki's request. See you. Taki tapped his bowl with chopsticks and waved to Kazuki. Yeah, right. Taki waved without turning around. I'm the owner of this shop, not a guest. Yet here you are, telling me to see you. As Taki left, Kazuki began to devour his ramen. After finishing work, he had gone straight home, skipped dinner, and rushed to the ancestral hall. No wonder he was starving. Just a few mouthfuls in, an unexpected person arrived at the ramen shop. Knew I'd find you here. Endo entered with a smile, patted Kazuki on the shoulder, and without hesitation, grabbed a pair of chopsticks. Clasping his hands together, he said, time to eat. Then, he started eating as well. Following Endo, Shimeki hesitated for a moment from across the street, but eventually walked over. When Shimeki arrived, Endo gave a faint smile and nodded before continuing to eat. Shimeki was momentarily confused but returned the nod. Take a seat. We're all clan members, no need to be so formal. Kazuki gestured for Shimeki to sit and handed him a pair of chopsticks. Eat first. We can talk afterward. Alright. Shimeki wasn't much of a talker, but that didn't mean he was dumb. Otherwise, he wouldn't be here meeting Kazuki. Soon, they finished their bowls of ramen, and Kazuki patted his stomach with satisfaction. Seeing Kazuki finish, Endo and Shimeki also stopped and set down their chopsticks. Shimeki, anxious and nervous, hesitated for a long time before finally speaking through clenched teeth. Kazuki, thank you for helping Ryoichi at the daimyo's residence. If you hadn't stood up for him, he might have become a laughingstock of the clan. Kazuki's reason for urging Fugaku to select Shimeki was clear. Shimeki Uchiha wasn't a standout among the clan's jounin. He was often overlooked due to his low presence. More importantly, he was Ryoichi Uchiha's older brother. Kazuki had stepped in to support Ryoichi Uchiha at the daimyo's residence, ostensibly for the clan, but in reality, also to help Ryoichi. Shimeki had to acknowledge this favor. Chapter 115, It's All Within the Family. Ryoichi was beaten, which also made me lose face, so let's not bring this up again. By the way, Ryoichi's injury should be mostly healed by now, right? He has recovered very well, and he'll be back to work soon. That's good. Taking the napkin from the table to wipe his mouth, Kazuki proactively spoke the words Shimeki had been hesitating to say. Are you wondering why I hinted to the clan leader to choose you, making you the captain of the 3rd squad in the police force? Was it that obvious? Shimeki scratched his head awkwardly and nodded. He felt so weak, unable to hide his thoughts, as Kazuki had easily seen through him. Kazuki casually tossed the napkin into the trash in a corner, then looked straight into Shimeki's eyes with confidence and said, It's simple. The hardliners will only bring trouble to the clan, but you won't. Although you're part of the hardliners, I believe you'll stand by my side, for the sake of the clan and the village, and not just as a tool for the elders in their pursuit of power and interests. So blunt? Kazuki really dares to say anything. Shimeki was startled by Kazuki's straightforward words. Kazuki rolled his eyes and was pushed from behind by Endo. Do you have to be so blunt? What about me? You're talking as if I would stand by your side. Wouldn't you? Kazuki asked with a smile. Endo originally intended to say firmly. I wouldn't. But when the words reached his lips, he found he couldn't say them. With a smile, Kazuki pointed to himself. You've seen everything I do, whether official or personal, it's all for the family. That's why I'm confident you'll stand by my side to help me. The things the elders and the clan leader can do, I, Kazuki, can also do. And the things they can't do, I still can. Shimeki's eyes flickered. He had seen what Kazuki had done and knew the reasoning behind it. If Kazuki were only using the family as a cover to seek benefits for himself, even though Kazuki had helped Ryoichi and recommended him, Shimeki wouldn't be sitting here eating ramen with him. Uchiha needs change. Many people have this idea, but few actually step up to do something about it. Even fewer can bring benefits and improvements to the family, and Kazuki was the most representative of that. Even though it hasn't been long since he stepped forward. Damn you, I almost believed you. I'm leaving, going home to sleep, can't be bothered with you. Endo pouted, adjusted his clothes, and stood up to leave. Endo left decisively, leaving Shimeki stunned. Endo, Kazuki's smile didn't falter, he's just saving face. Don't worry about him, he's just a tsundere who cares too much about appearances. How should I put it? You could say that Endo Uchiha has already become shaped by me. What the hell? Shimeki was dumbfounded. Is this how you describe relationships? If I didn't know you both didn't have that kind of inclination, I'd really start to suspect. Something was going on. Does that mean I will also be shaped by you in the future? Thinking of some inappropriate things, Shimeki's expression changed. He instinctively shrank back, patting his forehead and reminding himself not to think nonsense. What am I even thinking? Kazuki can make random remarks, but I can't just take them literally. If Kazuki couldn't figure out what Shimeki was thinking at this point, he might as well find a place to hide. Leaning against the wooden wall, Kazuki squinted, and his smile faded. If your mind is clouded, and you like to think of nonsense, I don't mind using Ganjutsu to clear your head. It was just a metaphor, do you understand? I wasn't trying to hit on you. Cough, sorry, that's my fault. Shimeki quickly corrected his attitude and apologized. He didn't want to compete with Kazuki in Ganjutsu strength. To be precise, apart from Shizui, no one in the Uchiha clan was willing to challenge Kazuki in Ganjutsu. As for your invitation, I'll think about it seriously. Alright, As long as you're considering it. Kazuki didn't expect Shimeki to immediately take his side. It wouldn't be easy to get Shimeki to follow him wholeheartedly. Well, I'll take my leave. After sending Shimeki off, Kazuki could only hope that his mental endurance would hold up. The hardliners' elders wouldn't be as easy to deal with as Kazuki. Pulling in a capable ally with just a bowl of ramen and a few words? That's hardly reliable. Kazuki's goals went beyond that. The specifics would depend on whether the hardliner elders were competent. He hoped they wouldn't disappoint him. As Kazuki hesitated about whether to help wash the dishes after the meal, the last person he had been waiting for arrived. Is there none for me? Pulling the curtain aside, Tsunade glanced at the empty table, rubbed her stomach, and sat down dejectedly. Doesn't the Hokage office provide dinner? Kazuki asked with a smile. Don't get me started. Tsunade grumbled in irritation. The old man keeps making me read this and look over that, always asking me to help with official duties. When would I have time to eat? Yeah, the village leadership is usually so busy they don't even have time to eat, yet they always seem to find time to focus on the Uchiha, monitoring us. Kazuki said, feigning understanding. After all, the leadership is very busy. Busy enough to have no time to eat, yet plenty of time to deal with the Uchiha. This kid's words are just as sharp as ever. Tsunade wanted to punch him but restrained herself.